Oh, we can go headphones? No headphones. Your call.
Headphones, yeah, that works for me.
All right.
Helps us hear each other a little better.
Yeah, that's why I like it.
Yeah.
I think it just kind of it pulls you into the conversation a little more, I think.
It's good monitoring.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely for me, because then I can kind of keep track of, okay, where are we at right now?
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, there's nothing worse than listening to a podcast and like both of the levels are like way off of each other and stuff, and you're like, oh, come on, you guys are like saying the best stuff in the world. But who's that guy Paul Holes who does the like one of the murder podcasts? He's like a former FBI guy. Did all the consulting for like Criminal Minds and all those shows and stuff. And like this guy is like one of the most brilliant minds in the entire world. But I was listening to that podcast like a couple years ago, and the like one person was like just down here, and the other one's just jumping up here. And it's like, oh guys,
It's brutal.
yes, you could have put out the best podcast in the world if these levels were right. But
Yeah, especially if the content's good, right?
Oh,
and
sure.
then the audio's trash, and you're like, I just can't. I can't make it through this right now.
yeah, no doubt. But I mean, this is really cool, man. So growing pains.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Growing
How'd you come up with that?
I mean, when I was growing up, I had physical growing pains, because I would just you grow as a kid,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so that was kind of started the inklings of, oh, that's kind of an interesting name. And then my parents would always say, if you go down these rough roads and make difficult choices, you're gonna have some growing pains. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's gonna be a hard road for you.
Yeah.
And I made mistakes. I mean, I still make mistakes. That's all part of life.
Oh yeah, who doesn't?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I just felt like that kind of encompassed what I wanted out
Yeah.
of this.
We're always learning.
Yeah.
We're always growing in
yeah.
some way.
And that's all part of it. And the
Yeah.
moment you stop doing that is the moment you need to look around and be like, okay, we got to mix this up.
Right. Well, our noses never stop growing. So
Ooh.
yeah, so that's a bad thing for me, unfortunately. But I don't know, man. If this thing takes off, you could be growing pleasures. You know what I mean? Like
Snap.
there's something to it. I mean, it kind of sounds a little porny, but
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we tinker with it,
yeah.
But it's been fun. I mean, I don't have to tell you that. You've got your own little show going on.
Yeah, man. It's always nice to talk to a fellow podcast
Yeah.
nerd.
Yeah, this is my first time bringing somebody on who's like deep in it and like actually does one. It's like, oh shit, that's awesome.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it really all started out, listening to Joe Rogan and Bill Burr back in the day. Those guys are like, I mean, they're veterans.
Yeah.
They've been doing this for a really long time. So it's nice whenever those two guys pop on and talk to each other too, because I mean, what vets, Well, who do you listen to? What kind of podcasts?
Joe Rogan. I think that was definitely a big inspiration. I listened to a lot of NPR, kind of back in the day, more so than now, because they kind of they're a little out there with what they're putting out.
Oh, NPR?
Yeah.
How so?
It's just, I feel like the content is definitely tinged more by what's going on currently. Like there's a little more political undertone from what I've been listening to. And TED Talks, of course. I know that's not really podcast-esque.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's that guy who used to host the TED Talks?
I know who you're talking. Guy
Raz.
Guy Raz.
Yes. Oh
Great.
my gosh. What an interesting voice
Right?
he has. You
Perfect
know what I mean?
for the platform.
Oh, totally. And then Manoush something is the new host. And I mean, she's doing a pretty good job, but I got really used to Guy Raz.
Yeah.
But those TED Talks, man, I mean, you come out of those and you just feel inspired, You learn new things about the world that you just never even thought of. And it's all condensed so well. The production on those is just
incredible.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my favorite things about podcasts is, even if it's not like that, right? Because this is nothing like a TED Talk. We're not going to be, elevating the world by what we're saying. Probably. I don't know. We'll find out.
I guess
But
we'll see.
It's,
Yeah.
I mean, just the variety that you find, I think is fascinating. I mean, you have like Joe Rogan or Bill Burr, who's kind of just ranting like that. That's amazing. And
Well,
you can get
yeah.
something from both of those.
I feel like everyone and their mom has a podcast these
Oh,
days.
yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. Being able to talk to one another in a sort of, in a different format where everybody has their time to speak. I think there's something just really energizing about that. There's something, it's like a solid, just human exercise, the art of the conversation. It's a beautiful thing. And it really, truly is an art form. So to be able to work on that and to kind of fine tune that, I mean, there's something that's just, it's supernatural almost. It feels good.
It does.
Yeah,
I mean, this is the most authentic way of communicating. Because, I mean, what's the alternative now? It's social media, it's texting, and it doesn't feel the same. You don't get the same energy out of it. I can't read your cues. You can't read my cues. Like, you miss out on so much of what it means to talk to another person when you're going through a screen.
absolutely. And it is a matter of convenience too. Radio stations are fantastic. Analog radio is fantastic, but just to be able to, be able to find exactly what you want to listen to and just the touch of a button is just, it's something that we are so lucky to have.
Oh, yeah.
So
What got you started? What kind of caught your eye and you were like, I want to do this?
Well, shoot, man, I grew up in Southwest Colorado, and you had Isabella
Yeah, I was gonna
Vanderheiden
say
on.
that's kind of how I got introduced to you, and I was like, I got to get that guy on,
Yeah,
man.
oh, Izzy and I, we go way back. Our friends were like really close friends, and so we were really close friends growing up. She was just a little bit younger than me, so she'd come and like thrash my room, and then I would, and then she would come over and not thrash my room, and I would thrash it, but I would blame it on her.
Oh
So we
yeah,
had
of
kind of like
course.
a, there's kind of like a sibling thing going on between us,
Oh,
but
that's cool.
we've always been fascinated by the news, I'd say, or fascinated by media in general. But yeah, I grew up in a really tiny town, like less than 1,000 people, and all we had was radio. I remember calling the local classic rock station requesting some Aerosmith or something, and then I heard my own like little baby voice on the radio, and I was like 10 years old, and I thought, wow, I think I could maybe get into this. Eventually started volunteering for the local community station over there in Southwest Colorado, KSJD. A friend of mine had a roommate that lived with them that became the program director there. And so we got to do this Friday night, 8 to noon or 8 to midnight metal show where we would just play like the worst music in the entire world. And we'd play like instrumental beats, and my friends would like freestyle rap
Oh
over them and
man.
saying just the stupidest things. I mean, I'm surprised that the FCC didn't just completely rip the station off the air,
Yeah. Well,
and
nowadays it might have been a different story.
totally. And we would party out there. We would do the worst things. So I mean, we got kicked off the air, and then we got brought back on the air. So I mean, radio has been really a huge part of my life since I was like maybe 13 years old.
Wow.
Super fortunate to do that, and so I come out here to Humboldt State University and get involved in a KRFH. Shout out to KRFH and Humboldt State University. They really know how to put together a solid studio. They have lots of really great equipment out there and good professors. Cliff Berkowitz, founder of KHUM, was a professor at Humboldt State University. And he was like, hey, we've got an internship over here at Lost Coast Communications, which is a cluster of radio stations here. So it's K-Slug, K-Hum, The Point, and then it used to be KXGO in recent memory, but they switched over to a new format, The Lounge. My friend Larry Trask runs The Lounge now. It's kind of like a laid-back sort of cocktail hour all the time station. So yeah, I got to meet those guys coming straight out of college, and holy smokes, man! I was the backup intern there. So I went from backup intern to program director of K-Slug, which is the alternative rock station here, or it was back then. I guess it's a new music station now. But yeah, always have been interested in getting involved in radio, getting involved in music, getting involved in community. That's really what this is all about, is, bringing people together. It's nice when somebody can listen to you and they feel like they're in the room with you. It's nice to, it's almost a lonely format, wouldn't you say?
Um, I I personally don't think so, but I don't do a one. I'm not like the soul. If I was just sitting here by myself, kind of doing like a similar style like you do, I would probably think that.
No, no, I mean in terms of listening.
Oh, oh yeah,
Yeah, I
oh
mean you're in the
definitely.
car, you're by yourself, or you're on a plane, or you're on a walk somewhere. It's hard to take in a podcast whenever it's you and your friends. You and your
Yeah,
friends are
you're not.
talking,
Yeah, that's
you
not
know.
happening.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, I feel like it's our job to be friends with people. It's our job to kind of reach out to them and shake their hand and say, hey, here I am with you, and we are here together. And if this is not about me, it's about us.
That's a. I think that hits the nail on the head. I mean, some of the podcasts that I like the most, that's why. It's because you feel like, although you're not interacting, obviously, you feel like you're in the room with them. And
Mhm.
even just sitting there listening, you're like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you just get that feeling of like, I'm a part of this.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I
Yeah.
think that's what makes podcasting and radio and all that so unique is that even though you're not there, you get to feel like you are. You get to feel like you're a part of this conversation that's happening and you're pulling ideas from it. And I don't know about you, but like I'll be listening and then I'll start going off on a tangent in my head of like, oh, that doesn't really make sense. I'm gonna have to look that up. Or oh yeah, that's a great point. Like I never thought about it in that way. And then that changes your whole perspective. From just sitting and listening to some show of people talking thousands of miles away, perhaps. I mean, that's incredible. And the fact that that can happen today and anyone can do it is amazing.
Super amazing.
It's amazing. There's
Yeah.
no barriers. You could do it with your cell phone if you wanted to.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of positives to that. There's a lot of positives to that in the music industry as well. Back in the day, surely we became accustomed to our Beatles and our Zeppelin and our Stones and all that good stuff. But nowadays there's so many different artists offering so many different things, so many different genres. All the DIY out there is just fantastic. Like you can find a band that has millions of dollars behind them, and then you can find another band that has no money making money out of their, or making music out of their bedroom or something
And their
like that,
closet.
and it's just as good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so to be able to reach people like that, it's fantastic. It's also really a hard thing, for a lot of folks because there's so much competition out there.
There's gotta be there's like millions of podcasts now. Everybody almost has a podcast.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, but you got to start somewhere. I mean, shoot, like Mr. Bungle started out in their garage in Eureka. Here we are in a Eureka garage.
How
So
crazy.
yeah, I mean, that could totally happen.
I started out on a pool table. I had a ping pong top and it was in my parents', living room area and that's how I just sat at the table and reached out to people and people were crazy enough and nice enough to come on and it just grew. I mean, not that this is like insane or anything, but
Yeah.
it's cool and I'm sure you can appreciate that too just looking back at how far you've come. Even these small steps, it's just crazy. It is just crazy. And like you said, with music too, I think it's great that there are no gatekeepers. There's no reason why you can't start if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to do it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, what inspired you to start this show?
I was, whew, I think it was a culmination of things. I had kind of wanted to get into it for a while before I actually started. And with COVID, like I wasn't talking to people. I came home from college. I quarantined for 2 weeks because I was on a flight that somebody might have had COVID on, and it was back when nobody knew what was happening. And so I quarantined for 2 weeks, and that kind of just turned into me not really seeing anybody for like 2 months. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just had school, occasionally at work, but I was just at home or because the gyms were closed. Like I didn't go anywhere. And I was like, this is not healthy. Like this is not good. All I was consuming was social media and everything online. And I was like, this is not okay. Like I need to make a change.
Not at all.
And I was like, what better way to get authentic conversations with people than to do a podcast? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's definitely a selfish pursuit, I feel, because regardless of if anybody's listening, like, I'm just happy to be sitting across from you and talking to you, and I feel that way with everybody that comes on. Because when would we have met otherwise? Maybe never. Maybe
Right.
we would have bumped into each other on the street. Maybe we would have never had a conversation like this. And that's crazy to be, the thought of missing out on that and missing out on all the conversations I've had up till now. I
Yeah.
think that's crazy.
And you can't trust social media.
No, no.
I mean, it's just like the algorithms that decide who they show your posts to.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't know who's controlling that. You don't know what's controlling that. It's unfair almost,
And it's just not healthy.
Oh, sure.
Like the stuff online is toxic. Nobody's authentic in the sense, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but people are more willing to say things that they wouldn't say to you in person. You know what I mean?
I miss the social media days where it was just like, oh, show me your family, show me your dog,
Right?
show me like some fun tourist destination you went to. Like, when did it become like, oh, let me shove my religious and political beliefs down your throat until everyone's angry, you know? And that's really, it was almost like an addiction for people. It
It's
became an
definitely
addiction.
addicting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially now because what else was there to do when everybody was locked down? I
Mhm.
mean, you went online. Your work
Mhm.
was online. Everything, every way you interacted with the outside world was online.
Yeah, I just wish people were kinder to each other, throughout this entire pandemic. There's been a lot of like misunderstanding in terms of, what one side feels or what the other side feels. And I wish there had been more common sense from the very beginning. I mean, here we are dealing with a crazy pandemic that is, a bunch of different countries are dealing with it differently. Nobody's getting it right. Zero people are getting it right. But like nobody's saying get out and walk a few times a day.
Right?
Nobody's saying get out and exercise. Nobody's saying boost your immune system. People were saying it, but they weren't saying it enough.
It was a minority opinion and it was almost suppressed. Nobody wanted to go there. It was
Mm-hmm.
no, we need to wait for the vaccine to come because that's going to save
Yeah,
us.
it's like, okay, masks can save lives, great. Or, some people don't want to wear them. Okay, great. Vaccines can save lives, great. Or some people don't want to get the vaccine, they want to get more data, great. But like, what can we all do? We can all exercise, we can all eat better.
Take vitamins.
Yeah,
Take these proactive steps to just help, you know? There's no
yeah.
harm in exercising or going for a walk or just being out in the sun and getting some vitamin D. I mean, there's no downside to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no problem in having subtle differences with your neighbors. You know what I mean? There shouldn't be an issue in that. It shouldn't be like, oh wow, you have a red house and I have a blue house. Like we're not going to be friends. That shouldn't be the way that it goes. It should be like I want my community to rise up together. I want my community member, my neighbors to rise through and come above this thing. I wish that had been, like it's just corny now. You always hear we're all in this together or whatever. And you just heard that at the beginning and it actually felt fresh and real and it kind of felt cool. It's like, we are all in this together. We're not. We
No.
weren't. It was like 2 weeks of that. And then
And then it turned into a shit show.
it was an absolute shit show.
I I just don't know where the switch happened, where it went from, okay, we can all get through this to now people are trying to cram their opinions down your throat. Like if you don't want to get the vaccine, you're going to hear about it from everybody that wants you to get it and they're going to try to bully you into doing that. And it's not just with the vaccine, it's with masks, it's with if you start talking about these proactive steps that you can take. There's no compassion or understanding or okay, you feel that way, I feel this way, we can agree or disagree, but we can still be friends. Like you said, I mean, that just is not there.
Yeah. And certainly, whenever it comes to like racism and misogyny and
Oh, if we're not on
sexism,
the
it's
same
like,
page,
yeah,
it's
it's like, I mean, shoot, please don't be a racist. I mean, don't do that. You know what I mean? That's not cool. But we can subtly disagree about how we spend our tax dollars. We can subtly disagree about how much we should put into, into our infrastructure plan or into this recent bipartisan tech deal that the Senate just passed. Um, it's we can have fine-tuned discussions still. I feel like we're still capable of that, but we need to scale back on the social media. We need to treat social media as if it was like alcohol, you know,
moderation.
be moderate. Yeah, absolutely. And really, there's some people that just don't belong with alcohol. They don't fit. And there's some people out there that really don't fit with social media. They should just be completely off of it. I actually respect some of my friends that understand themselves enough to know that they shouldn't even have any social media. Maybe Reddit. Reddit's okay. It's all
Yeah, Reddit's a
anonymous.
little
Yeah.
different. I see, I wish I had that strength. I deleted Twitter. I had Twitter for like a month and then I was like, "No, this is a rabbit hole I can't go down." And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
deleted it and I'm like, "I just need to delete all of them." But then I make the excuse of, "Oh, well, I need it for the podcast so I can put clips out and
Oh,
all
yeah.
this." And it's like,
Oh, it's such a vicious thing,
it
man. You
is.
can't, you need it. You have to have it. It is a tool in this current society. I mean, I work in government, and in my job, we have to reach out to people on social media. We would be nowhere without it. We wouldn't be able to get our messaging out there. People wouldn't be able to learn about, necessary travel information or whatever if they didn't have that. So it is a really valuable tool, but we got to use it appropriately. And I mean, we're kind of, what's the what do I keep hearing? It's kind of like learning how to fly the airplane while it's up in the air, you know. That's what we're doing with it, and
Yeah.
hopefully we take it seriously and we're careful.
Well, it's like a hammer, right? You could use a hammer to build a house, or you could use it to bash somebody's head in. I mean, it's the same tool. It just depends on how you use it. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like we're using it very well right now.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
What do you do for the government?
I work in public relations. I'm a public information officer for the Department of Transportation.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I worked in radio and in print. I worked at the Times Standard for a number of years as well, and I had my
Is
daughter
that
came along.
Sorry, I
Oh,
am
you're
so
fine.
sorry. I just synced my computer to my phone and now it's gonna make some noise.
Oh, that's fine. That's cool.
Um, okay. I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, what a wonderful thing. Humboldt County has like so many radio stations and so many people that are like working in media full time. For me to have gone to Humboldt State University and gotten into the journalism department, and to actually be in a place as beautiful as this, and be able to stick around and work, that was fantastic. But I mean, radio personalities don't make enough money. Uh, you know, Journalists don't make enough money. I thought, okay, well, when my daughter was born back in 2014, I need to find a job that pays well, that I can have some security, have some insurance and stuff. And so then I switched over, started working in government. And then it was like just months into that where I started Humboldt last week because, I still wanted to reach the community. I still wanted to share the engaging, intriguing, compelling stories of Northern California with people because, I mean, this is truly just a once in a lifetime, one in a million place that people come from all over the world to visit. I mean, this summer we're going to have so many people coming from all over the world just to check out that the Redwood Skywalk, to check out the redwoods, to check out our pristine beaches and our oceans and our rivers and our ocean line and our rivers. But I mean, I feel really fortunate to live in this place. I feel really fortunate to be able to work in government, but also still have like a little podcast on the side, a little nights and weekend podcast. I mean, this podcast is cool. You're doing like 3-hour interviews with people and stuff. And my
Yeah.
podcast, it's like a nights and weekends like convenience thing. It's like, oh, if I didn't watch the news or I wasn't paying attention to the news last week, I can get on the treadmill for 15 minutes and I've got like okay, some of that stuff happened.
Do you ever feel like, because you have to watch the news to do your podcast, because
Sure.
you have to know what's going on.
Yeah.
I I got really into the news back when this was all going down for a few months, and it weighed on me. I hit a wall where it was like I can't watch the news. Like I had to take a break because it was just, and it definitely could have been where I was getting my news because it was CNN, and there's a tinge on everything,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's definitely a tinge on that, and it just weighed on me so deeply that I was like, I can't watch. Like I was just negative. I'd
Mm-hmm.
watch it, and it would just turn my whole day negative.
Yeah.
Does that ever happen to you, or can
Oh
you
yeah.
compartmentalize it a little more?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like there was a time where a friend of mine was saying something like, "Oh yeah, for every 15 minutes of CNN, you got to watch 15 minutes of Fox News," and it's like, no, that's going to make you feel worse. They're both not positive. You don't leave either network feeling happy. You know what
Yeah,
I
it's never
mean?
you never feel like you just spent 15 good minutes and you feel
Yeah.
like a better person
It's
afterwards.
just like that moderation thing we were talking about. I mean, you're talking, you're going to watch some CNN, watch a little bit of it, but read some Politico, read multi sources, read some PolitiFact, go back and see what people have been saying that is absolute and complete bullshit. And share that with people because oh my gosh, whenever misinformation goes around, especially on networks like Fox News or CNN, things get real weird. So I mean, there was a time back in the pandemic where I was like, okay, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, coming on 5 o'clock early evening, news is off. Just shut it off and like scroll wholesome memes on Reddit. Let's just like bathe in what humanity can be, because humanity truly can be super beautiful. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that. Perspective is a really important thing that we all need. So multi-source. Get your information from a bunch of different places, but also trust people that have been working on things for a really long time. If you've got peer reviewed science journals and the smartest people in the world are saying something, we should listen to them. Or, if things have been fact checked by a number of people, we should believe them. For the most part, there's some manipulation going on out there. I'll give people that. But just the mistrust for people that have spent their entire lives trying to make people's lives better is like, oh my gosh, that's not kind.
Yeah, it's hard because who do you trust? Because you find you could go to one site, it's totally slanderous, and then you might start thinking, oh, all news is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then you discredit all the people that are putting in the work, like Isabella. I mean, I talked to her and I told her after the show, I was like, after talking to you, like, I feel like my faith in journalism has been restored a little bit. Like, I can tell that you are authentic in your pursuit of just the truth. Like, you're not trying to sway people's opinions. You're just trying to create, not even create, but find the story
Mm-hmm.
and present that in
Mm-hmm.
its entirety and with integrity to the people. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's admirable. And I think it's easy to look at one bad news organization or one bad person writing these things and say that's all news. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not.
Mm-mm. Absolutely. I mean, and that's why we have to hold our journalists accountable. That's why we have to hold our officials accountable. That's why we have to go to city council meetings and wade through hours of bullshit, stuff that just makes you want to fall asleep. Because, journalists really do still have that role and they really still are helping communities. Sure, it's a business, especially whenever you're talking about CNN and Fox News and MSNBC. That's a business. That's why all those stations are playing one-sided stuff, but whenever it comes to community news, whenever it comes to journalists that are doing the work and really going to those meetings and like looking into these things closely, filing the California Public Records Act requests, um, you know, you got to really appreciate what these folks do. When I worked at the Times Standard, Thaddeus Greenson was like the desk next to mine. And, he's the editor of the North Coast Journal now, the news editor over there. And he's a really smart guy. And the way that he would talk to people, the way that he would, immediately hang up the phone and call the next person to try and verify what the previous person had said, the way that he would pick up on something that didn't seem quite right, and the way that he would, make that phone call immediately after that just to verify it. It could have been the smallest thing in the world, but, one lie leads to a million sometimes. So the amount of hard work that people put into these things, I got to witness that firsthand. And so growing up with somebody like Isabella, she really cares. She really cares about this community. She wants this to be a better place. And a lot of the journalists that I've been able to work with, they really do want this to be a better place. There's some, they just want their paycheck and they want to go home. And unfortunately, the pay model is built that way sometimes because it's like they're not paying journalists enough money. The Times Standard is laying people off left and right. That's just such an unfortunate bummer because these are some of the most brilliant people in the world that are out of work now. Um, so it's really important. I wouldn't say that I'm a journalist cheerleader per se, but I'm a friend of good journalists, I would say. And I really appreciate some of the solid ones out there. I think Ryan Burns locally for Lost Coast Outpost does an incredible job. Thaddeus, I mentioned him. Jennifer at the Journal does a really good job. Isabella has been just crushing it. I mean, that girl
Yeah,
works so hard. I see her byline on like 3 stories a day or something, and I'm like, dang, girl, like
she's
I
not messing around.
I hope that, yeah, gosh, she's really pouring it in. I think a lot of people should appreciate that.
Yeah. I think it's just hard because we always focus on the negative and we forget that there's positive things out there. You hear that again, you hear that one negative story and you're like, this is bullshit. All news is bullshit. Like I'm not gonna pay attention to any of it. But
Mm-hmm.
there are good boots on the ground
Mm-hmm.
putting in the work. And that's one of the things I like about, your show is even though it's just like a recap format, I know that like I can listen to what you're saying and it's like you're not feeding bullshit. Like I trust that you put in the work, you know, Isabella vouched for you, of course, too, and it's like, you need that. You need, because who has time? I don't have time, or I don't make time. Everybody has time. I don't make the time to go and comb through as much as I should. And so sites like, you know, what Isabella puts out or what you put out, like having that is a valuable resource for people that just don't have time. Because otherwise, what's the alternative? It's Fox News or it's CNN, and it's just, that's not good.
Or just scrolling the feed, you
Yeah,
know.
or just getting it off of Facebook, which
Yeah.
is just as bad, if not worse.
I mean, you take your average person, you know, over there on the boardwalk here in Eureka. You just cruise over there and just start talking to people. I mean, and they were really honest with you. Most of them would say, "Oh yeah, I get my news from Facebook, and I don't even click into the article.
It's
I
just the
just the
headline.
headline, just a little caption, and then you go into the
Ugh.
comments, and then you see who's liking the most comment, or you know, which comment has the most likes, and of course they're right. You know, it's just like this hive mind, and that's you don't even realize it. It's just like due to how Facebook gave the algorithm at that point and who it showed that comment to for the first 5 minutes of that post. It's that doesn't make it right,
No.
you know. So yeah, being able to go through there, yeah, look at those comments, but fact check them. You know, read multiple sources, make sure that that stuff is real, because don't just say, "Oh, I saw it on Facebook, so it must be true." You know what I mean?
It's the easy
Run
way
into
out.
yeah,
And I've done
absolutely.
that. I mean, I've caught a headline and been like, "Oh, that's crazy," and then talked to somebody else about it, and they're like, "Oh, that's not actually true." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, this is not good. I need to
yeah,
start looking deeper." But
yeah.
it's convenience, you know, because you're already on Facebook. You see the headline, and whether or not you click on it, it's stuck with you now. Like you have that headline in the back of your head. And
Mm-hmm.
if the moment presents itself, you're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I read something about that." You didn't actually read anything about it. You read the 5 words that were the headline,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And
Yeah,
that's all you know about it.
yeah. So you grew up in Humboldt County?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, born and raised.
born and raised.
Born
Cool.
and raised. And I mean, it is so beautiful here. I think I shit on Humboldt a lot, but I mean, when you
It's
grow up,
easy to shit on Broadway of
yes,
Eureka.
literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's,
I mean, you know what I mean? That's the first thing that I saw whenever I came up to Humboldt State for the first time is I flew into San Francisco, and you know, my mom and I rented a car and we cruised up 101, and I was like, "Look at all these beautiful redwoods." And I was like, "Oh, Eureka.
yeah,
Oh.
a little
Oh,
dumpy.
okay. All right.
It's like,
There's a
whew,
bowling alley. They got that going for them.
that's
Okay."
all. And a movie theater. We got
Yeah,
that.
yeah. There's a nice mall there. I don't know, but I think there's a lot of really hard work going into mental health services here locally. You know, a lot of focus on like, hey, let's not just like throw these people that are mentally ill in jail over and over again. Let's see if we can find some programs that fit for them. And that stuff is not going to happen overnight. That's what all those officials will tell you over and over again. Like, this change is not going to happen overnight because it's just such an embedded thing in culture everywhere now. You know, poverty leads to trauma, you know, and just they're just closely associated, which sometimes comes with drug use, and it's so sad. So how do we get people out of that cycle? And sometimes it's harder than incarcerating people, you know?
Yeah, that's the easy way. Is you just, it's out of sight, out of mind if you can just lock them up. But that's not gonna, that doesn't help anybody. I mean, it is the homeless issue, it's a real problem. Like you can't just let people stay out on the street. And it's really crazy in LA. I was down in LA a few weeks ago and they have like cardboard buildings, plywood buildings that they've made. They've got like generators and it's just out on the sidewalk and there's needles everywhere and you're walking around like this is not good for them. It's not good for people out and like this is just not good. Like we
Yeah.
need to fix this.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, you know, I think there's some money going towards that right now, or at least proposals for more money going towards finding housing for them. This Arkley thing, are you following that?
No, I'm not.
So it just made the news. I think it was probably last week, but the Eureka City Council has been moving forward on a number of like parking lots that they're going to transition into affordable housing.
Okay, yeah, I think I caught something about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and I guess Rob Arkley, who I'm sure you're familiar with as a Humboldt local,
Mhm.
you know, rich guy, wealthy guy, has got a lot of projects here in Humboldt County. He's got his hand in a lot of pies, so to speak. He does not want these local parking lots being transitioned into affordable housing. So, I mean, where would you stand on that? I mean,
What is his reason for not wanting it?
I guess just I'd have to listen to his interview. I
Hmm.
wouldn't speak on his behalf
Yeah.
properly, but I suppose it'd have something to do with NIMBY, not my backyard. Like maybe Old Town isn't a good place for that. They don't want those types of people um, along the main drag of the road. I suppose that's what he'd want. He doesn't want the nearby businesses, and that's probably his perspective. But there's also these subtle nuances of the project that people aren't quite understanding, which is, every parking lot that they're taking, they're basically replacing the parking taken somewhere else nearby. It has to be nearby, and the people that qualify for affordable housing, I mean, they have to follow the rules and regulations of HUD. So it's not just the run of the mill people that you see that are in really bad shape that are qualifying for these houses. They're people that have to pay rent still, and they can be evicted for drugs, and they can be evicted for causing disturbances and stuff like that. And, it's kind of nerdy, but I always talk about J.K. Rowling. You familiar?
Yeah, Harry
Yeah,
Potter.
Harry Potter author. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great story of her. She was living in her car when she was writing
Was
Harry
she
Potter.
really?
Yeah. I mean, and she had government assistance, and she got, um, she got a little help up. And now look at her. She's really wealthy. She steps into it every once in a while. Um, you know.
Yeah, what was the last one? The transgender
Yeah,
cause?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, props to all my LGBTQ people. You don't need to be stepping into this territory railing. I don't know. I was just like, I didn't see why she even got herself involved in that. But
I think providing housing is important. I think it's also important that they have, strict rules on drug use. And I know some people think that you need to provide housing first and then you can address drug use and address the trauma. But I think they're kind of in parallel. You need to help them at the same time. Because if you bring somebody in, uh, I don't know. I just think that drug use, I think people should be allowed to use drugs if they want. If you want to use drugs recreationally and it doesn't affect your life and it doesn't affect where you want to go or what you want to do, I think that's great. It's not my business. You can do whatever you want to do. I think as long as you're not hurting somebody else, have at. I think that's part of free will. Like, do what you want to do. And if you can maintain a positive life by your definition and it doesn't hurt anybody, that's great.
yeah.
That's what life's about.
Well, yeah. I mean, it all comes down to education, right?
Yeah.
It's like you should be educated about what you're putting into your body.
Yes. But
It's
I
like the
think
vaccine thing right now. People
yeah,
want to be educated
that's a
about what
good
they're
point.
putting into their body.
Yeah.
But
But I think if you're going into these government programs and the point is to help you rise above the circumstances that you're currently in, whether it's homelessness or whatever it is, I think that you need to really focus on that. And I don't know if you can do drugs and still try to address the circumstance. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and
I
if
just think it creates too much tension. If you're homeless and you're doing drugs and then you're in this program, I think it just creates too much contention, I guess. But
a
I
lot
don't
of it's
know. I
trauma
mean,
related too,
that's the
right?
problem is how do
Yeah.
you get people to stop doing drugs if they were molested as a kid or raped and doing drugs as a coping mechanism so that they don't have to feel that? Like how do you take that away from somebody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I see
That's
that
what
a
I don't
lot on
know.
social media, like you were talking about, where people are just like, "Oh, screw all the screw all the meth heads of Eureka." And it's like it's not like that, like believe me, I've had my share of annoyances in Eureka of people just screaming outside of my office naked and cops coming and picking them up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we've all seen that, and it's not fun. It's annoying, you know? But blanket statements about those folks, it's like, it's not helpful because it's like you don't know their past, they probably never wanted to look like ridiculous idiots. They just had terrible lives that got them there. And it's not always like, oh, I'm going to make a decision to fuck my life up. It's not always that simple. They never like hit a crossroads and they're like, Yale or fucking meth and Eureka. It was never like that, you know? And a lot of these folks just didn't have the opportunity. Um, so how do we give those people better lives? And I think it starts with children, and it starts with how we educate our children, and it starts with parenting too. How do we parent our children? Are we doing the best in the world at that? I don't think so. I mean, we have a long way to go in terms of drug use, in terms of school shootings. There are a lot of problems in our country that we really need to address, and a lot of it comes from how we parent, and a lot of it comes down to how do we protect our young, and how do we, you know, provide lives without trauma to them.
I don't think people really want to address it though. I think that's why we're kind of in this cluster of where we are right now, where we have so many problems, is because it's going to be a lot of work and it's going to take time, and people have to have a longer attention span than we currently are showing that we have. Like, we need to pick a problem and deal with it until it's done. Whether it's the homeless, whether it's mental trauma, whether it's prison reform, which is another huge issue. Like, we have to pick a problem, see it through, and then move on to the next. But nobody wants to do that. It's all posturing of, oh, we're gonna throw money at this problem, or we're gonna posture that we're gonna deal with this problem, but nobody sees it through to the end, and then it's still a problem 6 months from now,
Yeah.
or 12 months from now.
I know a lot of people can like walk and chew gum at the same time. There's a lot of people that, would say, hey, why can't we address all of these problems? And I hope that we can get there one day. But it's true. It's like whenever you're growing up and you want to be really good at fucking everything, and then you just do everything a little bit,
And
and you
it
never get
sucks.
good at anything.
Yeah.
There is something to be said about, okay, well, let's prioritize what's worst, right now, and let's fix that, and then let's move on to the next worst thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there are real problems in the world, real problems in the States, globally. I mean, you could take your pick and say, oh, this is a problem. There's no shortage,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a shortage of people who are willing to acknowledge what the real problem is and put in the work to address it, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Yeah, and I think the greatest thing that we can do, as podcasters with, like our listeners, we don't have a million listeners. We have some. Some people tune into us. The best thing that we can do is try to not only educate them, but engage them with their community, and also give them a reason to want to care. We can sit here and talk about homeless people in Eureka all we want, but how do we get those people off their asses doing something? How do we get people that come away from our show saying, you know what, like, I think the next time I go on a walk, I'm going to bring a plastic bag and start like picking up trash along the way. How do we get people to do that? And how do we get people to encourage other people to do that? I think that would be an amazing thing, is like, oh, wow, every podcast that we put out, hopefully they like walk away saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to go donate blood. Or, I just like, everybody can do something, So maybe we can stop throwing our litter out the car whenever we're driving or something like that. You know what I mean? There's just all these little things that we can do as a community to preserve what Humboldt County is, really. I mean, this is a pristine place that we really need to like make sure that we take care of the environment here, and we take care of our people, and that we keep our people safe, and that they feel like they can thrive too in terms of business, which, gosh, man, like I said, like tourists are going to start flooding here. Like, our housing prices are just through the
It's
roof right
crazy.
now.
Yeah.
So I think we're heading in the right direction in a number of ways. um, Did you follow the texting scandal with the Eureka Police Department?
I actually just read an article by the North Coast Journal
Yeah.
that was about that.
Yeah. What did you think about all that?
I'm morally torn because I was thinking about whether or not I should say this, but I'm going to say it.
Say
It's
it,
a
man.
podcast, baby.
Yeah,
Come on.
it's your podcast.
This guy that's one of the things, side note, that's one of the things I love about podcasting is there's nobody above you saying, "Oh, you shouldn't talk about this subject." I'm sure
Right.
you can appreciate that too.
Oh
It's
yeah, the former radio guy. I mean, I was
yeah.
always, and props to Mike Dronkers, by the way. Another side note, but that guy is a fantastic program director, and I was really lucky to rise to be program director too. But it's a hard job, and he did a really good job with it. He really encouraged people to be themselves. But also to engage their communities and to really give people a reason to listen to the music and a reason to care about their community, like we've been talking about. Yeah, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's great. Officer Sanchez, who is one of the officers involved.
Yeah.
Um, when I was a kid, I might have been 16 or 17. I had a run-in with him. Me and a friend allegedly were speeding down Broadway, allegedly,
Allegedly.
and we got pulled over in the Wendy's parking lot. It was late. It was maybe midnight by him and like three other officers in two cars.
Yeah.
And he he definitely could have written us tickets, impounded our cars. I had my actual license. I've been driving for 6 months, but my buddy still had his permit, who was driving the other car. And I mean, they could have railroaded us if they wanted to, and it would have been totally above board. Like allegedly broke the law,
Yeah.
and in his case, he wasn't supposed to be driving anybody. We had other people in the car, in both cars. And instead, Sanchez was talking with me, and he was like, "You kind of fucked up a little bit here." And I'm like, "Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like I wasn't. I recognized the situation we were in."
Yeah.
And um, he asked, if I call home, is somebody gonna pick up? And I said, "Yeah." So I gave him my home phone number, and he called, and my parents picked up. "Hey, this is Officer Sanchez. I'm with your son down here. He was allegedly speeding, and you know, I'm gonna send him home, and I need to know that if I send him home, you're gonna take care of this." And of course, my dad was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna take care of
We'll
it."
take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and he let me go.
Hmm.
And so morally, I'm a little I'm a little bit lost because on the one hand, I want to stand up for him because I think and I only had that one experience with him, so take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt.
Hmm.
I think that he is probably a good cop. Based off that, I would say he's a good cop,
Hmm.
because I don't know what another cop would have done in that situation.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that being a cop is a high stress job, and people who have high stress jobs, their humor is different, how they go about talking with people who are also in those jobs. It's like military people, like
Hmm.
their jokes are fucked up, how they talk is fucked up, but it's like I'm not in that world, so I don't know. Like I couldn't judge them for cracking these jokes or anything. But at the same time, there's a relationship between the police and the community.
Hmm.
And like that is incredibly important, and it's the foundation of good policing
Yeah.
is you have to have a good rapport with your community. They need to trust you
Hmm.
and you need to trust them. Otherwise the whole thing falls apart. And I think it's a problem what was said, but I also want to justify it and be like, these are cops, as long as they didn't like, and I don't fully know what was said. I read some of the messages that were sent because they were
Hmm.
included in that journal, and they're fucked up.
Brutal. Yeah.
But if I'm being completely honest, me and my friends have said some fucked up shit in group chats to each other that if it ever got out wouldn't be good. Like, so I don't want to be a hypocrite and say, "Oh man, like
Yeah.
fuck those guys," because that's
Hmm.
not cool.
Hmm.
But I also like it's not cool.
Yeah.
But when you're joking around with your friends, you can say some salacious shit just to get them to laugh. It doesn't mean you're that type of person or that you're gonna go and act on those things. It just
Hmm.
means you're messing around with your buddies. And I know nobody wants to recognize that that happens. Like locker room talk gets thrown around a lot, and I'm not justifying it, but if we're in a room with your friends, I'm going to say some wild shit and we're just going to be laughing. It's not like we're going to go out and do anything bad. But I think there is a higher standard when you're a cop.
Sure.
So I just don't know.
Yeah. It's like,
I'm kind of lost.
yeah, yeah, I could definitely see that's a weird position for you to be in. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, he helped you, but it's like, you know, I wonder if he would help somebody else that doesn't look like you, you know, uh, a woman, you know, or like a homeless person, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, does he offer you the same benefit of the doubt, calling your dad at night, that he does to everybody? I think that's the question that's on everybody's mind is, does he offer that same sort of, um, leniency to everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's the question people are asking right now. And yeah, I mean, sure, like there people are gray areas, man. Human beings screw up, dude. Big time. We used to say the stupidest things. I told you where I grew up in Southwest Colorado with Izzy, you know, in a tiny town. There's no black people there. You know, there's hardly any. You know, there's a huge Native American population and people are horrible to them. You know, and of course I grew up in a house where it's like, no, that's not okay. You need to make sure that everybody's treated equally. You need to respect everybody. If they're gay, if they look a different way than you need to respect everybody equally. And I firmly believe in that. But when I came out here, you know, it's nice to be around more like-minded people because you get to see both worlds, and that's really important to have perspective to see the different kinds of ways that people treat each other in different parts of the world. But yeah, I mean, there's so much gray area. Um, so, you know, would Sanchez rescue somebody from a burning building? Probably, you know, but are there other people that would do the same thing and not say this messed up shit post Me Too? That's the real question people are asking, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think it ties into you just don't know. It really is a gray area
Mm-hmm.
because I was in that situation, so I don't know what would have happened if somebody else was, you know. And you could speculate all day long, but until it actually happens, you just you don't know. I think that's why it's good that there's an investigation.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it affected his work performance, if he did act differently towards homeless people and like the sentiment that was expressed in those messages was shown to have occurred, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like then that's where the rubber meets the road. Is okay, it's not just joking around, which you know is different than it really is a problem because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
affecting the job and that rises above. Like you have to rise up to that position because you're a cop. Like whether it's justified or not, all eyes are on you at all times.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
I
it's like
mean,
you're a representative of the organization you're with. You know what I
yes,
mean? That's what it all comes down to. I don't know. I mean, did you participate in sports
yeah,
growing up?
yeah,
Okay. So I mean, I'm sure your coach has always said, everywhere you go, on or off the field, you're representing this team.
absolutely.
You know, and so a lot of guys forget that, I guess, whenever they're talking in text messages. A lot of people are saying really stupid things, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's like, well, where do you draw the line? You know, were they using company time for this kind of stuff? And I mean, I don't know. I feel like one of the really great things that's happening with police forces these days is, you know, trying to focus more on mental health. So having mental health officers show up and help out whenever they can. You know, not all problems require a gun. Some of them just need a gun there to stay holstered while mental health professionals talk things through. Um, you know, you talk about what is it? People want to defund the police. I mean, let's have
Which is
common sense. Yeah,
crazy.
let's have some
Which is
common sense here.
crazy.
Let's pay cops more and make them go to school longer.
Get better training. That
Yeah,
should be what everyone's preaching. Let's
yeah.
train these guys really well so that
Mm-hmm.
it's not you don't run into circumstances where something happened that shouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm a firm believer that, you know, your police force should have representatives of all of your community. So they should represent the demographics of your community and the minorities of your community too. It's like, oh, okay, well, we have this percentage of Native Americans, this percentage of Black people. We should make sure that there's people representing those communities on the police force, even more so, just for that sort of diversity. Because, and hopefully they're trained in a way that's, that's equal. You know, that just encourages equality out there. Because, like I said, you know, who knows if Sanchez would treat everybody the same whenever they're out on the street. You know what I mean? Or give everybody a second chance. I don't know the guy. I've never met him, and maybe he's just fine, and maybe he made some horrible mistakes in the terms of the rhetoric that he used. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that it's an important turn that our country needs to take. Is we need to really hold these guys accountable, and ladies accountable. Um,
What is your opinion on what happened? Because I'm sure you probably know more about it than I do.
the text messaging,
Yeah,
I don't have really a strong opinion, other than, like you said, let's make sure that the investigation is thorough and make sure that the chips fall where they should.
yeah.
You know,
I just have a I have a problem with with going after people for words, I think. And maybe it's part of because what we do here is talk. Like
hmm
we're just talking.
well, words turn into actions. That's the problem.
That's
Yeah,
that's where it
yeah,
becomes a problem.
yeah.
Is if the actions reflect that. Because
hmm
again, I mean, I don't want to be a hypocrite in in my youth, and even now, like I'll crack jokes that if you're in the wrong company, you just shouldn't say. But around your friends, like I'm sure I won't put words in your mouth, but you have friends that you've grown up with and you're like you just crack jokes or you rag on each other, you make fun of each other. And it's like I wouldn't go up and make fun of a random person because that's incredibly rude. Like
Well,
that's not cool.
yeah, and at the same time, I've changed too.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I went to high school, and I said stupid things that I learned about later. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? In my community, it was like really common to say, "Oh, that's gay," and it's like, and suddenly I'm out in the workforce, and I've had a couple or whatever, and we're having a drink after after work is over. I'm saying, talking about something else that. And they're like, wait, what did you just say? And it's like, I didn't even realize that I was doing that. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even realize, and so that has never been in my wheelhouse since then. You know what I mean? So I think we got to practice how we play in a way, a lot of times, you know what I mean? Because that's important on the field. That's important in our everyday lives is, holding ourselves accountable and not letting our thoughts manifest into actions. Because what are we if not just frail human beings in this universe that we have no idea how the hell we got here?
Yeah.
We might as well be kind to each other. But yeah, I think there's some going too far. I agree. The cancel culture thing is like, it's not a winning argument for anybody to just cancel people outright. I mean, you look at someone and they said something stupid 10 years ago on Twitter. You ask yourself, okay, well, did they try to change? Or did they acknowledge it and say, oh, you know what? I actually like harmed some people by saying that. Like, let me say sorry. Did they do that? Because I think human beings, if anything, should be able to apologize and to atone for their mistakes to an extent, as long as they didn't, call for people to be killed or something.
Yeah, we got to allow people to grow because we're all on that path. Like, I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 5 months ago. I won't be the same person today that I
hmm
will be in 2 years.
Yeah, we
Like,
evolve.
and that's part of life. And if we hold people to the same standards of now, of when that happened, say in a tweet 5 years ago, or like anything like that, it doesn't work because times change. What was acceptable 10 years ago isn't acceptable now. And
Yeah,
if we hold everybody accountable for what they said 10 years ago, everybody's canceled.
yeah,
Because everybody, you go back far enough, everybody said something
yeah,
that is not kosher or that could be misinterpreted. Like everybody has.
yeah.
And I think it's hard with this police thing too because I guarantee, millions of people saying things that maybe shouldn't be said every day, but these are cops. And whether it's justified or not, they are held to a higher standard. And they should be, because, they have the power to take somebody's life.
hmm
And that is a huge responsibility, and you have to rise up to that level. And it shouldn't be brought down
Oh
to
yeah,
some baseline.
these guys have guns.
Yeah.
They've got to be held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it just sucks. I mean, really, it just sucks. Because if these guys are good cops and this, you know, pulls them down, that sucks. And if they aren't good cops, that sucks too.
Yeah, well, and the men and women that make decisions like that and make mistakes like that and fall from grace like that, I think that that's one of the good things about this place that we live is there's a lot of people that can pull themselves back up and land on their feet after something like that. I've known a lot of people that have made mistakes in the workforce and got knocked out of the workforce, and they came back better people from it because there's a reason why we have repercussions for our actions. You know what I mean? So, does it go too far? Yeah, but does it not go far enough sometimes? Yeah, too. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's like I was just thinking the other day, the only constant in life is change, right? And a lot of people are struggling with this change now with Me Too. A lot of people are pulling back on it. They're saying, and a lot of people are pissed off about cancel culture. And I feel like the one thing that I hope that I can take with me into my old age is like a um, a desire to keep learning and a desire to keep changing with the world around me. I don't want to be like that cliche of some old guy who's like set in my ways and is just like, unable to realize that they've made a mistake, unable to realize that, they've hurt somebody, unable to realize that maybe the way that they've been doing it in their whole life isn't the right way to do it, you know? Because I think, as human beings, we're really like, we're so like lucky to be here. I mean, what is this? What is life, dude? It's crazy. How lucky did we get?
Right?
It's like, I mean, shoot, we haven't yet met aliens, but I mean, I'm
It's
sure we yeah,
close.
I'm sure we will
Yeah.
soon. Who knows, man? But it's like, what's out there and what universe are we in? Are there parallel universes? And it's like you have all these thoughts and it's like, wow, I only have this one life to live. I might as well like be nice. you know, I might as well like try to like bring people together. You know what I mean?
And push yourself. I
Mhm.
think that's one of the biggest things is when you push yourself and you find like-minded people that are pushing themselves and striving to be better, that's when you reach greatness. Whatever however you define greatness, it's going to be a struggle to get there, and you should enjoy that struggle because life is crazy. Like the fact that you're alive, the fact that we're alive in a time where we have computers and we can podcast
Mhm.
and I can reach out and touch anybody in the world that I want to is insane. And you should use that to some benefit, to
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
benefit you define, whether it's you creating music and putting it out on by yourself, or doing a podcast, or just creating videos or paintings, whatever you want to do, you owe it to yourself to just try
Yeah, yeah.
because there's so many people who don't get to try
Yeah.
by circumstances, whether they're born in a different country or maybe they don't have the means or the mindset to try. Like if
Mhm.
you can and you want to do something, you should do it because life is so short. It's
Absolutely.
so short.
Yeah, and it's not just um it's not just like motivation. You also have to have determination. You always hear that, but it's like really true.
Yeah.
You really do have to kind of fake it till you make it
And
sometimes.
motivation comes and goes. You
Yeah.
need hard work and dedication,
Yeah, you
and you
just need
need
to
to be
keep
disciplined.
going,
Yeah.
discipline, keep doing it.
Because what's that thing that everyone says, motivation to go to the gym, you maybe have once a week, but you got to go those other 4 days or 5 days because
Yeah.
once a week doesn't cut it.
Yeah, you're not thinking about the feeling you feel before you hit the gym. You should be thinking about how you feel when you leave because
Yes.
you always feel so good after you're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're over here by Health Sport. I'm sure that
Oh, I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm at Health Sport all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And most days I don't want to be there until after I'm done. And I'm like, oh
Mhm.
my God, I'm so glad I
Thank
went.
goodness I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really what we should have been doing the whole pandemic is like, okay, like let me make sure that I got my core on. Let me make sure I did my cardio. Let me make sure I'm eating okay. It feels so good. And it's like, what do they say? They always say like make your bed every morning too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that really just leads to opening up doors for other kinds of productivity throughout your day. I really believe in that, man. And I hope that people will, take that and be motivated to like, find their passions. You make music?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that last year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was funny that you said that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's
What kind
like,
of music?
well, like I put everything aside, like, gosh, 15 years ago or whatever, to just get into the workforce and start doing radio and journalism and stuff like that. And like I completely just stopped music. I was in a band in high school.
Oh, no
Yeah, we
shit.
covered like I was a singer. We covered like Rage Against the Machine and Incubus and Red Hot
Oh,
Chili
man.
Peppers and sang Nirvana. We did a Nirvana song. We had some originals. And I mean, we were fine. Like these guys they were a lot of fun to play with. Blind Fighter Pilots was the name.
Wow.
And I just completely stopped. You know, you get into college and you start focusing on your life or whatever. But the pandemic rolls around, and oh, finally, I have an extra like hour and a half in my day because I'm not commuting anymore. So I'm like, well, what do I do with this extra time? You know, let me play some songs here, and got to work with Bongo Boy Studio locally. You familiar?
No, I'm not.
These guys are amazing. They're a local studio in McKinleyville. Sarah Bareilles recently came to town and like recorded there because she's got her new show. Oh, what's her new show? Girls Five Eva on
Wow.
Peacock.
Wow.
And they needed to do some, I don't know, they needed to do some songs for the show or something like that. And she's visiting
How cool is
Humboldt County.
that?
So she goes to Bongo Boy Studio and works with Jimmy and Susie Foote and Dominic Romano over there. And so, I mean, this place has been around for like 15 years or more so, maybe 17 years. And they do just a fantastic job. They've worked with like a who's who of Humboldt County musicians, but they'll take your project and I mean, they'll make you sound like, you know, you're recorded in LA in a big studio down there. You know, so they take your sounds and make you sound like you actually, you know, deserve to put out music. I don't deserve to put out music. I mean, shoot, I was just doing it for fun, but I got 7 songs together, put out an album, and
Whoa.
it's like it was like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to do this since I was like, you know, making cassette mixes as a 6-year-old. You know, I want to make my own songs. You know, I want to be played on the radio. So it's nice to have those like sort of hobby projects to focus on, like podcasting. You know,
Yeah.
you probably found a really solid outlet.
Oh, yeah. There's no going back now for me. This is just, it's too valuable to me as a person. Like
Mm-hmm.
these conversations, like I feel different after each one. I feel like a genuine better person
Mm-hmm.
after each one.
Yeah.
No matter what the topic is, we could just sit here and BS for an hour and I will feel better
Mm-hmm.
just just because I feel like I got something out of it.
Absolutely. Well, creativity is just I think it's a huge part of who
You
we
need that
are.
release. You
Yeah.
just do.
Yeah.
Are you going to release those
I
7 songs?
Oh, they're out.
They're
Yeah.
out
Oh,
now.
they're bad. They're
Oh,
so
what are
bad.
they on?
They're on wherever you get music. It's on Spotify and
Oh, I'm
iTunes and
definitely going to have to check them
Pandora.
out. That is
Yeah.
so cool, man.
It's MCMC because my name's Myles Cochrane. So it's MCMC like letters each. Sorry.
No, you're good. That
Yeah, I
is
got
so
your pop
cool.
filter here. I like this too. I like your whole setup is just really good.
I'm slowly saving up. Eventually, they're all gonna be these SM7B mics.
Yeah.
But those, I started with those, and they're great mics. They just pick up a little too much ambient noise,
Uh-huh.
so I got to switch over a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so it's the Myles Cochrane EP. If your listeners are interested in rupturing their eardrums for a couple minutes.
oh,
You know
I'm
what I
definitely
do you know
interested.
what I just heard the other day?
Hmm.
Is that we're only supposed to listen to music for 2 hours a day or something like that.
Oh, that's awkward.
That's awful. Like I listen
Yeah.
to like 10 hours of music a day. Like
Oh,
my
easy,
eardrums are dead
easy.
by
Yeah.
now.
I already feel like I'm going deaf a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean you're an audio guy, you know. It's like,
yeah,
oh, we're done
we're
for.
screwed.
We're going to
Yeah,
have
I'm listening to audio, and I'm sure you are too, throughout most of my day.
Oh
If
yeah.
at work I'm doing podcasts or music, and then if I'm editing, I'm obviously listening to what
Yeah.
was on, and I always have headphones.
What do you do?
Wh-
Besides podcasting?
I do upholstery work.
Awesome.
So yeah, so it's pretty much just me working on whatever it is, whether it's like an airplane seat or car seat or
Yeah.
stripping a couch.
You know who does upholstery like really well is Jack White. Are you familiar?
No, I'm not.
Jack White, he's the White Stripes. He's the vocalist and guitarist of the White Stripes, and then went on to be in the Rock on Tours and a number of other bands. It's like garage rock. He was a big garage rock revival. He's from Detroit, lived in Nashville, and just is like the king of bringing like real rock back. If anybody's gonna like bring guitars back, it's gonna be Jack White. Everybody's heard Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. But
I
no.
have not.
Oh my
I have
gosh.
not.
Okay,
I'll have to check that out.
check that one out. I mean, I feel like that's the one everybody's heard. It's like the stadium anthem that baseball players will walk out
Maybe
to
I
and
have.
stuff.
I might have
Yeah.
heard it and just not know the name.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
not. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, shoot, if you go to a Crabs game, you might hear it. It's a big song. But yeah, I mean, tons of other really great like kind of blues rock stuff that he does. But so he's been on Rolling Stone's cover hundreds of times. I'm like not hundreds, lots of times. He's a big deal. But that's like I love that these creative people have their other sort of creative sides to them. Upholstery is an art.
It's a
Um,
dying art.
yeah,
Yeah, not a
yeah.
lot of people know how to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. So like what's your favorite project that you've done?
I I'm not like I can't do everything yet. I'm still training, I guess you could say.
Apprenticing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
apprenticing. But my dad does it and he's done some incredible pieces. I mean, he's done some interiors for like old cars that people have restored, and the interiors have been featured in magazines because they're so just incredible. I mean, the work that he does is really impressive, and that's when you start to see, oh, this is artwork,
Mm-hmm.
because he's pulling these designs out of his head,
Uh-huh.
and it's just, I mean, he's done custom, uh, just so many different things, custom interiors for planes, custom projects. We had this cross come in, and they wanted a cross made out of like this red velvet,
Mm-hmm.
and he did that, and it turned out crazy. I mean, it's incredible what you can do with your hands when you
Mm-hmm.
just put your head down and grind.
To be able to like look at something and say, "Oh, I did that. I
Yeah.
made that.
Or
That's
to be able
mine."
to look at nothing and see something in your mind and be like, this is what it's gonna be.
Oh yeah.
Like that is crazy.
Yeah.
That's a
Concept to
crazy skill.
reality is just like what a beautiful transformation.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't do that. I'd be like, just sit there for hours and be like, what is this gonna be? Because I don't know.
So did you go to Eureka High?
Yeah.
Okay. And what year did you graduate?
I graduated in 2016.
2016. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm a whole 10 years older than you. I was a
How
2006 guy.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My
So
sister was, how old are you?
I'm 32.
Okay, my sister's turning 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right around there. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So you went to Eureka High, Eureka Middle School, all that stuff.
Eureka High and Zane.
Zane.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you like it?
Eureka High?
Yeah.
I was gonna say I loved it. I did love it. I mean, high school, I think, is a weird time for everybody.
Yeah.
I think you grow and you face these challenges, and it kind of creates a platform for you to grow off of.
Mm-hmm.
But high school's hard. It's great and it's hard and it sucks and it's awesome. I mean, it's a roller coaster of emotions. I don't think you could wrap it up in, oh, it was perfect. 'Cause
Yeah.
moments suck, but there are moments in it that are great too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Did you travel a lot whenever you were that age?
yeah,
the
I would
world?
go to Mexico a lot.
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
go to Mexico a lot.
So that gave you kind of perspective on like, what Humboldt is versus the
Oh
rest
yeah.
of the world.
Oh
you know.
yeah.
Did you feel like you were kind of lucky to live here, or did you feel like you wanted to get out? I know a lot of people that grow up in Humboldt, they feel like they need to go.
I feel like I need to go because my purpose isn't here,
Hmm.
I think. But I love Eureka.
Yeah.
Or I love Humboldt rather. Like it's just I went to school back on the East Coast
Uh-huh.
and I went to school up in Oregon, and I always loved driving back to Eureka because outside of Crescent City and along the Rogue River, it's just so beautiful.
Gosh, the
And
Smith River, man.
oh, it's
Oh.
crazy. Oh, what did I say? The Rogue?
Oh,
I think it might have
that's
been
up there too. I
the
mean,
Rogue's I think a little closer to the border.
yeah, Rogue,
But
isn't that up in like Brookings area? I'm
it's
terrible at local
I
geography.
suck. Yeah, if it's not on Google Maps, I'm not getting there. But driving right outside of Crescent City, the air just smells cleaner. Like you
Mhm.
take in a breath of air and you're like, oh my god. Like it's I don't know how to describe it. It's just incredible.
Mhm.
And I've only ever experienced that there
Yeah.
and here,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I mean, really, there's parts of Eureka that aren't that bad too. I
Yeah.
mean, I used to do like roller derby broadcasts over at Redwood Acres over by
Did
the
you
place here.
really?
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
man,
that is so cool.
super fun. Like I remember once all of our equipment was like failing, and this guy John Matthews. I'll tell you a little bit about John Matthews. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm not.
Oh my gosh. So he was one of my coworkers and he's on to like big things right now. But this guy is like a MacGyver. I was doing a roller derby broadcast and all of our equipment failed. And so he figured out a way to like MacGyver a cell phone into being able to broadcast from the station on, it was 94.1 back then, but K-Slug is 93.1 now. And it was crazy. A 4-hour broadcast on a cell
Oh
phone.
my
And
god.
like I was hearing from people like getting text messages like, this actually sounds like not bad. Like it sounds like you're mic'd up, And so it's kind of fun to like have these memories whenever I come back here because I'm not really on this side of town anymore. But yeah, John Matthews, he was like a local Humboldt County radio legend. I mean, this guy, he'd have on guests from all over the country, big names, and he would tick people off. He was like Howard Stern, you know what I
Mm.
mean? And he's from New York, so I mean, I think he
He's got that
probably,
energy a little
yeah,
bit.
he's like, oh, he knows how to poke the bear, you know what I mean? And he knows, it's like that's not my style of radio, but it sure was entertaining. I think there was like one guy who came on to be the editor of the North Coast Journal. He had him on. I forget what his name was. And like the guy just went off the rails on John Matthews' interview and like he was gone. He was like nixed because of the interview. Like this guy had that kind of power. You know what I mean? But John is like, he's working for Eminem now
Oh, really?
on Sirius XM. There's this guy Rude Jude that has a show, and like John is like producing it, and so he has his like own segment on the show now and stuff. And it's like, I mean, that's XM Sirius. Yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
That's big
That's
stuff.
the big leagues.
Yeah. So there's some podcast radio types from Humboldt County that have gone on to do
That's
cool stuff,
crazy.
and
Do you think
so.
you'd ever go back after doing the podcast? Do you think you'd ever go back into radio or you think you'd stay
Oh, in a
around?
heartbeat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I woke up this morning and my partner and I, Shai was like, "Gosh, those people that say that they would still work after winning the lottery? I'm not one of those people," she said. I was like, "Oh gosh, yeah, you should tweet that." But really, I figured if I did win the lottery, I'd buy a radio station because it's just there's something about giving listeners a reason to like a song. You can sit there and just play a song all you want, but saying, oh, check out the verse, like whenever they did the verse, they use this special instrument and, it's inspired by this crazy thing that happened. Whenever you hear that before a song, you're like, oh, you know what? I think I will listen for the 2 minutes until I hit that bridge instead of changing the channel because, you know, people need a reason to like what they're enjoying. Songs need meaning. I think every art form needs some meaning. you know I like the meaning behind your podcast. It's just people talking, you know what I mean? Like, let's get people in the room with us, basically. Let's pass the time together, you know. I really believed in that, and so like that's kind of what I'd want to do, you know what I mean? Just like hop into radio. And so, if I ever get to the point where I feel like I've nested up enough money or whatever, socked enough money away, never gonna happen, but yeah.
Like a dream, right?
Yeah. I would probably pop back into radio, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I do my 99.1 FM show every Saturday night, so check that out tomorrow night. It's called Humboldt Fresh Finds,
I'll have to
and so
check
I'll
that
play
out.
some songs too. And then I've got the online radio station, Humboldt Last Week Radio, that people can check out, And I feel like nowadays it's like FM radio is just like, wow, it's really important, especially in terms of an emergency in a place like Humboldt County, because we've got like earthquakes and, all these other crazy things that can knock out the cell signal. And
Or just power outages. They
yeah,
just
it's like,
shut that off like nothing.
yeah, we've got a PSPS going, we got to listen to the radio, figure out what the heck is going on. Who's got the generators,
Yeah.
who's selling generators for
Who's got the toilet
500% of the
paper?
price they should. Yeah. Um, So, FM radio really does have its place, but also, it's kind of cool to like throw on a internet radio station and there's no commercials. So it's
which is
basically like,
nice.
yeah, so it's just like all music and then all like reasons to listen to the music. And then like a little thing about Humboldt County. So you think, oh, wow, like I'm in this community with the people that are listening to this right now. And I think there's something powerful and magnetic about that, just being in that moment with somebody and thinking, oh, wow, like, old Bob 5 houses down might be listening to the same thing right now, and maybe they're going to leave their house in a more solid mood, wanting to treat each other better out there. I love that idea.
Music is such a powerful thing. I think about that almost daily. Like first off, the fact that we are alive when we have music just in our pockets is mind blowing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it can change your mood. It can turn a bad day really good. It can get you pumped up. It can make you feel emotions that you might not have been feeling prior to listening to it. I mean, it is incredible. And it's just noise.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really is. It's just somebody opening and closing their mouth and then somebody banging on an instrument. And it's beautiful.
Our brains were meant to take in music. They were built for it. Like there's this book called "This Is Your Brain on Music," and so it involves like science and music. And they did some experiment where they took like Back in Black, and they're like, okay, just tap with your fingers what you think the tempo to Back in Black is. Dun 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 dun.
Classic song.
Everybody knows the tempo of that just off the top of their head because our brains were meant to take that information in and register it and make us feel a certain way. And yeah, you're right. It's like every single song that you hear, being able to, tick you off when you need it because you're about to go compete, or being able to calm you down when you need it because you're about to go have a serious conversation, or, make you feel a little bit of joy whenever you're missing somebody. Dude, that's a hell of a drug, and it's one that I would definitely prescribe more than social media.
It's the best drug.
Yeah,
hands down.
yeah.
So talk to me more about the record you put out because I think that, dude, I think that is so freaking cool.
Oh man. Okay, so the lead song is called "Kite."
And did you write all these songs?
Wrote it all.
That's
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, wrote everything. It's hard to write, man.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. It's hard to write a song, but it's like the first one is, so I was sitting there trying to write lyrics and I was like, total brain fart. I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm going to write. What am I going to do a song about? This is the first one. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I haven't had my coffee. And so I'm going to write an entire song that's a metaphor about me being pissed off that coffee is required as a crutch for me to be able to even write a damn song in the first place. So the song is like, I brought a kite to a knife fight because I forgot my coffee, or a kite to a gunfight because I forgot my coffee. So that's the first one. And, I try to embellish my sound a little bit with a little help on that one. So Dominic Romano did some of the instrumental work and the production and stuff from Bongo Boy Studio. And
Okay.
really, really fancied that one up. And Bongo Boy made me sound like I almost halfway deserved to be on the radio on that song. Almost halfway deserved it. But the next one is called Scroll. And so it's about this sort of psychological downsides to social media that we've been talking about.
I'm definitely going to have to check that one out.
That one's kind of fun. It's kind of got like a sort of like a reggae bass line, and then it kind of switches into sort of like a hard rock sort of chorus, which is really weird, an odd juxtaposition.
That's unique, yeah.
Yeah. The third one is called Number One Fan, and it's about my daughter. She's 7 years old. Her name's Audrey, and she's just the smartest, funniest little whip. And then the fourth one is called Fireworks, and it's about my girl Shy. And the fifth one is called Outer Spaced, and it's a metaphor for people, letting others have negative feelings toward people for no reason, based on politics and stuff. But it's all done in under the veil of a alien invasion. Super nerdy. That's the nerdiest one. But I had so much fun writing it. So that one's called Outer Spaced. And then the last one is called The Key. And I wrote that one a long time ago. when I was in college. It was probably the last song that I wrote before I just stopped and started focusing on K-Slug and the Time Standard and Caltrans and all that other stuff that I've done. But
How long did it take for you to write these? I mean, not the one from college, but
yeah, gosh, it would take like a good 4 or 5 days for all the lyrics for every single one. But then the music, I wrote the music too.
oh, you
And
did. Oh,
hmm
wow.
so the music is like, coming up with chord progressions and stuff. That can take a while.
Is that harder than coming up with the lyrics themselves?
I'd say equally hard for
Okay.
me, you know what I mean? Because, I write a lot. So I felt like some of the lyrics came really easily
When
sometimes when I
when
had my coffee.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Uh,
When you say you write just lyrics, or like you're
I
writing.
would start with the music first. I'd
Okay.
come up, so I'd take out the acoustic guitar and come up with some chord progressions and write those chord progressions down. And then I'd kind of like sit and think, okay, well, what kind of vibe does this have? And then I'd write, lyrics to that and then add drums and bass and all that other good stuff. And um, so, yeah, I mean, I did the lyrics, the music composition, the guitar. I played bass. I played piano on some
Wow,
songs, keyboard.
you're kind of a jack of all trades, huh?
So yeah, I mean, doing all that stuff on every single song. There was one of those
That's
songs probably took me a month to do.
that's a lot of work.
Just like, okay, well, nights and weekends, I'm doing podcasting and music. So shout out to Shy and Audrey for, letting me kind of pursue those passions in the free time and stuff. But yeah, it's just one of those things. You got to have your outlet. And I hope that a lot of people find theirs, whether it's just fucking doing a puzzle or finding new music or, submitting new music to Humboldt Last Week Radio, you know.
Definitely recommended.
Yeah, yeah. Not that that's a plug or anything, but yeah, like I think that there's a lot of good ways that we can kind of just release from all the tension of now of 2021.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of those songs were like some cathartic release. Just hearing kind of a quick version of what they're about, like it sounds like they relate to a lot of what's going on now,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just trying to process that and work through that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that there's something really to be said about like, you know, having nothing to do. Like that'll really get you in a lot of trouble, you know? So like I have ADHD, dude. I have to be doing something, or I'm gonna get into trouble, man. Like you mentioned having a crazy childhood. I got into trouble so many times, dude. So I needed something to do. And it's important to know yourself, really. Um, because if you don't know yourself, then I mean, you're never gonna get it right with others.
And not even fully, you just have to have like a rough idea of who you are and who you want to be, I
Mm-hmm.
think. Because if you don't have a direction, like I know I'm not where I want to be as a person, I think, if I sat down and thought about it, but I'm definitely closer than I was 5 years ago. Like I'm becoming that person. I don't know if I'll ever reach that,
Yeah.
but I think taking progressive steps and following passions and doing things that not to sound corny, but like enrich you in
Mm-hmm.
some fundamental way. Like that is all part of it. You
Oh,
have to
if you
take
can,
these moments and run with it when you find something you care about.
yeah, if you can look back 5 years ago and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm in a better place now," like you should feel really happy about that.
Absolutely.
Like, don't compare yourself to, others because that's really gonna bum you the heck out, dude. Um, but if you're comparing yourself to yourself, I think that's valid. I think that's important.
I think that's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's in their own race and
Mm-hmm.
we're running kind of in parallel, but what trips me up might not trip you up, and the obstacle you face next might not be the one I face next. Like you just got to keep your head down and chase what you love.
Yeah.
Like I think that's like hearing you talk about this, it's easy to tell that you're passionate about music for sure. I mean, that just comes across. And I think that's awesome that you got back into it. But some people don't. Like some people they have that when they're a kid, whether it's music or painting or doing some creative art, and then they go to school or they have to get a job, and then that becomes their life and
Mm-hmm.
there isn't that release anymore. And I
Yeah.
think that's why people are so pent up now
Oh
with
yeah.
rage and so quick to jump on others, is because nobody has a release, nobody's doing what they love, nobody's following a passion. It's just you work because you have to make money to support your family or your life, or
Mm-hmm.
have a roof over your head and there's no time to do anything else. Especially like these manual labor jobs, man, that it's fucking hard to go bust your ass roofing a house or pouring concrete and then go and try to do something you're passionate about because you're just fucking tired. Or even just
Yeah.
flipping burgers all day. That's
Yeah.
gotta wear on you
Yeah.
in a weird way.
That's such a good point, man. Because, I mean, sure, we can sit here all day and say, oh, get yourself a podcast, make yourself an album. But, I mean, shout out to everybody out there that is busting ass for their family and doesn't have time to do stuff like this. You know, how lucky are we? We're so lucky to be able to do stuff like that. But, you know, there's little things I think everyone can still do. You know, okay, listen to a podcast that makes you happy while you work. You know, try to find these things that, you can treat yourself. Like Aziz used to say in Parks and Rec. Um,
Great show.
yeah. You know, you can find little ways to do that. And I really hope that people do. And that we just kind of throw out this notion of like, oh, I have to be a hard ass and never have fun, and never try to find a way to treat myself better. Because, like, I mean, we're just fragile. Human beings are so fragile. And there's like this narrative that, men have to be less fragile than women and stuff. But it's like, we also have to understand ourselves and like just kind of throw out all those like stereotypes. You know what I mean? Like, sure, step up and be assertive whenever you need to be, but also be aware of like, humanity is like, we don't have to be so like in everybody's face all the time. I see that mentality out there a lot. I see people out there just driving like, get the heck out of my way.
Focused.
Yeah.
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 It's interesting seeing, especially that norm of, you know, men have to be tough. It's interesting seeing that kind of erode in a way because I feel like a lot of people nowadays are like, no, it's okay to show emotions. It's okay to be sad or be upset or cry or just, have these emotions that everybody has, but guys just have to lock them down. I think
Yeah.
it's weird that we're in a time where people are kind of pushing back against that and saying, no, that's not, you don't have to do that.
I like seeing that. You know what I mean? To an extent. It's like nobody, yeah, you can go way too far with that.
Oh,
Like
yeah, if you're
nobody
crying all the
wants,
time and
yeah,
just
nobody wants to hang
complaining
out with
about
the
life,
groveler.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nobody wants Eeyore, I mean, that's why Eeyore
That's
doesn't
just a
get
rough way to
invited.
live life.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's really important to like hopefully you can find a way to treat yourself better and hopefully you can find a way to like talk to people. A lot of folks just don't talk to people. And
Communication is huge.
yeah, like call the old friend, like even if it's not necessarily for them, do it for you, even if they don't pick up, try the next one. And if all else fails, like really, there's a lot of programs out there that allow people to talk to mental health professionals. I cannot stress enough how important it is to talk to a mental health professional, especially right now, for a lot of people out there. We're pent up and we've been not all lucky enough to have creative outlets to kind of pour our passions into. So, I mean, gosh, it should be totally fine talking about seeing a therapist every once in a while, caring about your mental health. Whenever I transitioned from radio into working in government, and then started up the podcast or whatever, I think that was a big transition for me. That was a important change in life for me. You know what I mean? And so it was important for me to like value my mental health and like talk to somebody about that, talk through that. And then that relationship becomes like almost like a life coach in some ways. Sometimes, you just have somebody that you can bounce ideas off of. A lot of people, I mean, a podcast is that for them. It's almost like, oh, there's mental therapy too,
Oh, it definitely
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Just working through ideas.
Because you probably talked to a number of really interesting
Oh, everybody that's been on,
people.
I think, people are interesting in their own ways. Everybody, I think, is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you just have to sit down and talk with them and find out what it is that makes them tick. And then you'll just be blown away.
Yeah.
You'll just be blown away.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think everybody has their unique perspective and, hopefully we can all kind of come to a more cohesive place in the future someday.
Hopefully.
Yeah, things are looking weird right now.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It is luck, I think, that plays into it, finding your passion, but it definitely is. It does tie back into that hard work and discipline. Because, I mean,
Hmm.
take you, for example, you're busting your ass at work, then you're busting your ass trying to do the podcast, and you're busting your ass creating music.
Hmm.
Like, I guarantee
And
that's
being a
not
dad
easy.
and a
And
boyfriend, I mean,
yeah,
that's
like,
like, yeah,
what? Like, there's no way that that is easy. I guarantee that takes up 99% of your time and energy,
yeah.
but it's worth it.
And I don't have time for like anything, dude, these days. Like, I'm so lucky that I took this week off. I'm glad that I was able to do this pod.
Decompress. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
just,
so happy you did this pod because I'm sitting here having a blast talking with you. But that's like I don't want people to get the wrong idea. It's hard work,
hmm.
but the hard work makes it sweeter and it will pave the road for where you want to go. It's
Hmm.
not going to I don't think it's going to be easy for anybody. I don't care if you're working part-time or going to school and you have more free time to do your passion. It's going to be hard. You're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to do the 10,000 hours, but it'll be rewarding.
Hmm.
It'll be rewarding if it's something you're really passionate about.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, there's just not enough can be said about trying to find your passion or find out what makes you tick,
Yeah,
you know?
that's the big thing.
Hmm.
And just run with it. Doesn't matter. I had um, Jillian Levy, who co founded Humboldt Apothecary, and she's super passionate about cannabis. And she was working in a different field and realized this is what she wants to do. And she's running with it. Now she's got a business with her co founder, and they're doing awesome and producing great stuff. And it's like, that's what life is about. Like, finding what it is, it doesn't matter what age. Some people find it earlier, some people find it later, but when you find it, you just gotta run. You
Oh,
just gotta run.
oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's just so many amazing artists here in Humboldt County. You talk about like the number of artists per capita here, and you go around and you walk around Old Town, you see these beautiful murals that are up by like world renowned painters. You're just like, wow, this is where we live. People come across the entire continent, across the entire globe to see what kind of art scene we even have here. When I was at the Times Standard, I was able to cover the entertainment scene. So if like a comedian was coming to town, I got to interview them, or if like a band was coming to town, I got to interview them too. And just the passion that people had to go out and buy tickets and get together in huge numbers. I hope that happens again for Humboldt.
Me too.
That's one of the things that I was really proud of for this community before all this happened. And when I was in radio, I actually booked shows too. And so, for K-Slug, I had this band Animal Years come, and for Finish Ticket, there's a different band from the Bay Area that we booked up here for like Halloween shows. And then I worked with this guy Oli from Diamondback Productions. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
No.
but he had some corny artists come to town too, like Kid Rock and like Uncle Cracker, and
Oh, that's cool.
like, I mean, he would probably kill me for calling him corny, but to me, I mean, that's not where I am musically right now. But I mean, they were big. That's a big deal to book an artist like that. But we worked together on some big shows like Twista, over at Nocturnum like 7 years ago or something. We brought Twista around, one of the fastest rappers around. Head PE, Head Planet Earth. It's kind of like a hip hop metal band from down in Southern California. We brought them around. There's this chick Otep who is like the fiercest chick in metal. You listen to her and like she's got this like deep growl, like of a just she's got a dude's voice. Like she wouldn't be mad that I said that. I mean, just because it's just the timbre of it is just so fierce. You know what I mean? And of course, women can be fierce too. But I mean, she's just amazing, and so we brought her to Humboldt County too. But just to see like big name artists like that, to be a part of bringing them here, but also to like see others doing such good work in booking artists out here. I hope that continues. Like Center Arts, obviously at Humboldt State University, they do a really good job bringing big names around. Please keep that up. Like friggin' Run the Jewels was just up here. Like Macklemore has played here.
That's so crazy.
Dirty Heads have played up here. Some of the more recent ones, but I mean, obviously Primus, big names like that. AFI came here, like a lot of people miss out on some of that stuff, but I hope that they don't, because this community is like, it really does bring people in. And we're so lucky to kind of have that magnetic nature up here because we're off the beaten path. I mean, we're a freaking island out here.
Yeah, we really are. In a sea of trees.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they're bringing back the summer concerts, aren't they?
Oh gosh, I hope
I
so.
think I want to say that I think I heard that on the radio actually that
Yeah.
that's coming back.
Oh, and I know like all the local bands are just they're ready. I mean, I saw
Oh,
that
I bet. They've just been
Absinthe
sitting.
Quartet or whatever. I mean, that's a huge local band. Lord Ellis, Dominic Romano, Michael David. Um, some of these really amazing local bands. They're just ready to go, and I think there's a lot of those people that are just like ready to go big too, kind of like Mike Patton did with Mr. Bungle and Faith No More. You familiar?
Nope.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not. I'll be honest. I'm not familiar with most of these artists, but that doesn't take away from my appreciation of just people doing what they love and create
Humboldt
music.
has like is
We
so
have a
responsible.
beautiful scene, whether
Yeah,
it's the art scene or the music scene. I don't know about the comedy scene. I only recently realized that we have some comedy clubs where they do
yeah.
shows.
Savage Henry's awesome. I'm sure you've seen the magazine around back in the day.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, Savage Henry magazine started up I don't know how many years ago, but Chris Durant, I believe, is the guy's name, and he started that up, and he did a really good job with it. And it's just this sort of like super cynical, funny magazine that just does the exact opposite of what any typical magazine would do. And you know, they bought up the club, the old, what is it, the Red Fox Tavern, what it used to be, and they started booking some comedy shows there. And there's this other guy that they had booked like right before the pandemic started. And like, oh gosh, I forget what his name was, but he made like international news for defending Guy Fieri. God, I'm gonna be so mad for not remembering what his name is, but he was this like really big name comedian was gonna come to town, and they had to cancel the show because of the pandemic because it was like right at the beginning of that. But he like was like, why is everybody so mad at Guy Fieri? All he did was help people, that's his whole
He
shtick
gets shit
spiel.
on so much. And I don't know why. I've never actually looked into it. I just know that people shit on him religiously
Oh
for
yeah,
some
they're like,
reason.
oh look at this dude with his flame shirts and his bleachy
It
blonde
might be the
hair.
hair. Maybe
Yeah,
it is the hair and shirt
but
combo that's kind
there's
of.
like, oh, forget about the fact that he like officiated hundreds of gay weddings and volunteers
Donates a lot.
hours and hours and hours to like wildfire relief and feeds firefighters and buys the Ferndale Meat Company and saves it from closure.
Oh, did he do that?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. I mean, what a cool dude. A lot of people are like it's just totally slamming on celebrity culture these days. I think that was another movement that happened last year because we all saw that video of like Ellen sobbing in her mansion about how sad she was that she wasn't able to be on TV or whatever.
That was the Ellen thing was crazy, and then it came out that she's like,
Horrible.
not a nice
Not a
person.
good person.
Like what a complete 360
Yeah.
for her.
Yeah. And I feel bad for anybody that had to work with her alleged antics. That sucks. That sucks that she was like that because I mean, I think whenever she came onto the scene, she was pretty much known to be the exact opposite by
Well, that's what
the
she
common
portrayed, right?
consensus. Yeah.
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
super nice, super friendly,
Mm-hmm.
not on
Ellen
set.
the Generous.
Yeah.
Not so much. But yeah, I mean, but there's this sort of like, oh, celebrities are all stupid and there is an extent to where I think like, oh yeah, like why were we so obsessed with people like that? Why did we follow those lives so closely? Why did they mean so much to us? But there's also the other hand where you realize, oh wow, these people have these redeeming qualities that you can look up to. I think that guys like Guy Fieri and Sarah Bareilles, and Mike Patton from Faith No More, and the former drummer of Green Day, or like the guys like from AFI that were from like Ukiah and stuff. It's like it's cool to kind of celebrate the fact that you can come from a place like this and go on to do big things in the world and make real good change.
I think that's why people want to tear them down. Is because they see them doing something that maybe they want to do, or they don't want to put in the time to do, or don't feel like they could do, and so they just want to pull them down, bring them
Mm-hmm.
back down to the general level of everyone else.
Oh, the algorithms too. It's like, oh, if I say something mean about Guy Fieri, it's definitely going to get more likes and shares and comments on Facebook than if I just say, oh,
Praise
yeah,
him.
good job, dude. Keep it up. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to.
Yeah, positivity doesn't go viral.
No, not enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
some,
get there
yeah,
are some cases, true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But it's way more frequent for someone to get torn down than it is for them to be brought up.
sure. Yeah. And I mean, also, there's like, who didn't make mistakes in their past too? You know what I mean? So, I hope that we can come to a place where we're like, okay, every single human being that reaches a certain level, we're going to find something out about them that, like, oh, it's not positive, you know. But what are we willing to put up with? And I hope it's okay. I hope there's a good threshold that we come up with that, it's okay that they did that as long as they said sorry, as long as they know that that's not right, you know.
Do you ever worry on that same line of thought? Do you ever worry about like cancel culture coming for you for something that you've said? Maybe it's on the show or like just because you have been in like the public eye through radio and through your podcast now.
I think so. Like, I think, I've made mistakes in my life, but I'm also like completely willing to talk about them. So
Mm-hmm.
if anybody ever said, hey, like, you remember when this happened? I'll be like, yeah, and I'll tell you why I did that is because I wasn't like valuing my mental health right then. And I've taken steps to try and make that better. That's why, like, I think a number of times my family has like told me I should run for city council or something like that. I'm like, no, I, first of all, I'm not qualified for that kind of position. I feel like there's a lot of people that are more qualified to do that. But on the second hand, I always think that yeah, I don't want people like digging through my life like that. And it is kind of sad because you think about all the other people that are really that are qualified to do that, that have that same feeling that they think, oh, I just don't want people digging through my life, that like really could help. They could make a good change out there. Because we're not human if we don't make mistakes. It's the most classic way to learn, isn't it? By failure.
And you
It's
learn
not
the
the
most that way.
Yeah, it's not the most ideal way to learn, but
It's very beneficial.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I've gotten into trouble. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned getting helped out by a cop. I've been helped out by a cop. I've also been, you know, uh, gosh, I've had really bad luck too. I remember visiting some friends in college back in the day, and they were like robo tripping, which is Robitussin. It's just stupid
Oh
cough.
wow.
Yeah, they were tripping off that, and like here I come with a safe driver, like a designated driver, get dropped off at the dorms, and I go and visit these guys that have been robo tripping, which is like far worse for you. And I'm in the room with them for like 5 minutes. And of course, like, I'm 19 or something and I've had a few beers. And we all blow into the breathalyzer because we get a noise complaint.
Oh.
And all the guys that had Robitussin in their system, didn't register anything. But of course, I get the minor in possession because I had just
Oh,
showed up with a
that's
designated driver.
crappy.
And I was just about to leave that room too. I was just going to say hi to an old friend, you know. That's that kind of stuff. It's like, oh yeah, that's probably going to come up later. The whole like visiting family in Texas and having a little bit of a substance that may be legal in California now, but is not legal in Texas, allegedly. Might have
Allegedly.
had some of that in my vehicle, and get pulled over in Texas, and they find the pipe, but they don't find the substance. And I'm pretty sure now, looking back on it, that the state trooper there probably did find the substance and just decided to let me go. Same similar situation that you went through, where hey, maybe we could use a little bit of the benefit of the doubt so we could go on to, I'm headed to college, I'm headed to enter into the workforce, I'm headed to be a tax-paying good citizen. You know what I mean? They could have lost out on that if they decided to, so there's definitely both sides to that coin. We definitely want to like improve the lives of those around us so that they can get to that point to where they're stimulating our economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how I mean, dumb luck. Like one thing changes and it's all different.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is
Yeah. It's
that's
just overnight. You could
uh,
be like, oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had I when I was going to Oregon State, a bunch of us got shit-faced, and we went to the football game, which is, like, what you do up there, you get wasted and then you go watch football, and we're out there and we're having a good time, and it's me and 2 buddies, and we're up on the bleachers and we're standing up because 'cause we're cheering for something, and this guy in front of us who's, like, a military vet, roughly our age, maybe a couple years older than us, we're talking with them, they're talking with us. One of them pulls out a flask of, like, Fireball or something, and we're passing it around, just having a good time, and we passed it back to him, and, like, 30 seconds later, a trooper comes down the steps, and he's like,
Oh,
"Alright, where is it?" And we're all playing dumb because, you know?
yeah.
And, he's looking around, looking at each of us, and I'm just looking at the game, like, I'm swaying because 'cause I'm trying to focus on just standing, like, it's looking rough for me, and I'm like, "This is how I go down right here."
Yeah, yeah, this
And
this is
so,
it.
I'm just focusing on not falling over. I've got a buddy to my left, shout out to Tristan, he is, like, I don't remember if he was, like, looking at the cop or not looking at the cop, but the cop looks at him and is like, you, and you come with me," and he takes 4 of them, including Tristan, and I think they all got tagged from
Mhm.
MIP, minor in
Yeah.
possession. And I think about that, and it's like, that was just dumb luck that I didn't get take. I would have blown over easily. And it's crazy how it's just that, like, that's just luck.
Yeah.
Like, there's no rhyme or reason why he got picked and I didn't, or those guys got picked, or those guys just happened to have a flask and were friendly and we were having a good time. Like, one thing like that and everything changes. I mean,
Maybe.
imagine
Yeah.
imagine if you just went out and were partying and you got picked up by the police and they weren't nice and you had a little bit of weed on you or something and you get locked up. And it's
Mhm.
like that one moment changes your whole direction.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like in humanity we're dealt with like, okay, how much of where we've gotten is based on luck and how much of it is based on hard work and determination, you know? And I feel like, I don't know, for some people it's mostly luck, and I feel like for others it's mostly hard work and determination, you know, that can fall anywhere on the spectrum of 1 to 100, but boy, maybe that's like why we're so critical of celebrities, because we have that in the back of our mind. Like, how much luck did they get to get there? You know, for every really talented celebrity, there's like 100 like equally talented, if not more talented people that could do the exact same thing. They just didn't get the same amount of luck.
Yeah, especially in music, that there are just, I mean, how many thousands of great artists are out there that are just kind of obscure because they didn't blow up or maybe they didn't get the traction online and they just have like their niche following, which there's nothing wrong with that, but they could have been like
Mm-hmm.
a Miley Cyrus or a take your pick of some huge like a Michael Jackson, like some superstar, but they just didn't get that one moment where there were a ton of eyes and they took it and ran with it.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to like perspective too. You know, I read this book. What is it? The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I don't know if you've
Is
heard
that
of
a
that.
good book? No, I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
Yeah, yeah. There's this really good point. I forget what the guy's name is, who wrote it, but it doesn't matter. People can Google it. Like we can Google everything. But yeah, there's this guy who's like he's talking about a couple of rock stars, and I believe it was like the drummer of Megadeth or something used to be. Um, oh, I'm totally missing it now. But okay, so that he takes two rock stars. One of them only gives a shit about competing and having better record sales than the other one. And then, and then there's Pete Best, the former drummer of the Beatles, who, okay, yeah, he may have lost out on being in the Beatles, but he also lived a really happy life and he surrounded himself with his family. And, if you look at the guy and you talk to the guy, you seem like, oh, wow, that guy's led a more fulfilling life. Oh, yeah, it's Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. And Dave Mustaine from Megadeth is like, oh, is just completely competing with the guys from Metallica for his entire career and always never feels like he's like done anything. So you compare Dave Mustaine from Megadeth, who's like sold millions and millions of albums, to Pete Best from the Beatles, who hasn't done anything, but which one is happier? And it's Pete Best, who hasn't sold the millions of albums, because it's the perspective of how you look at your life, right? So, and that's in that book, and there's a lot of really solid points in that book. But that's kind of like, wow. So if even if we did get really successful, were we just looking at it to compete with others the whole time? And is that really what we wanted? Or, are we doing these podcasts like Humboldt last week or Growing Pains? Are we kind of just doing those to enrich ourselves? And does it matter how many people listened last week? Does it matter? Certainly for my advertisers, it matters. But I mean, I feel like, I feel like we shouldn't be tying ourselves to those view counts so much. And instead, we should say, oh, am I better for having done that episode? Or if I'm not better for having done that episode, how can I do the next one so that I will have done an episode next time that I felt better from? Being able to say that you're doing these creative things for yourself instead of for the view counts or the listen counts, I think that's huge. And the longevity of that is huge. Like, look at Joe Rogan. He was doing, I mean, whatever he's getting in trouble today. And I don't really necessarily listen to him too much today because I don't know. It was coming a lot of inflammatory stuff, there's a lot of this us versus them stuff going on with him. And that's fine. I know that people still like that, but he got so famous and he has so many listeners. He doesn't need me. You know what I mean? He doesn't need me, but he still has that many listeners, but he had years and years and years where he didn't have listeners, but he just kept doing it. He just kept plugging away, you know? And if the success happens, that's awesome. But I mean, if it doesn't, I think Joe Rogan, guy like that, seems like he'd go back and say, well, did I stay in shape? And did I, talk to some interesting people? And, and he'd probably say yes, and he'd probably be pretty happy, I think.
I think that's why being passionate is so important, because if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, the first opportunity to get out or to do something else or anything, you're going to jump at it because you're not passionate about what you do. Like if I was just doing this for money or you were just creating music for money, as soon as the money dries up, you're not going to do it anymore because why? I was only
Mm-hmm.
doing it for money, and if the money's gone, why do I still need to do this?
Mm-hmm.
I think that plays, like you said, into the longevity of it. Is you have to figure out why you want to do it. And if that reason is to better yourself, well, then you're going to win every time.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be more motivated to work harder if it's good or if it's bad, because you're going to want to make it better either
Mm-hmm.
way. And that's going to keep feeding that cycle of, okay, I gotta improve this part. I gotta improve. Like, I feel like that with this, like, trying to build up the studio, it started out, okay, I gotta get more mics. I gotta get better lights. Like, and
Yeah.
that's just external things. In conversation wise, it's like, oh man, I should have said this and I didn't say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I should have prodded them more on this line of thinking because I think I could have got something deeper out of them that would have, you know, better encompassed their idea. Or I should have said this way because I didn't really get that point across and I kind of fucked it up and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't make sense. Like, being critical of what you do is good because it motivates you to do better,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And
Yeah.
it's just passion. You just have to be passionate about it.
Be passionate, have fun, and like don't forget where you came from either.
Yes.
I feel like that's a huge thing too. I'm wearing this shirt right now. It's my Foo Fighters shirt, and it's a dedication to one of their first ever shows at the Jambalaya in Arcata. And they put out this shirt recently, throughout the pandemic, taking sales from it and then donating it to small venues, hoping that they could stay open.
Oh, that's cool.
So, I mean, band like Foo Fighters, Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, were doing a show in Arcata off the
I didn't even
plaza
know they
there.
played there.
Oh yeah, back in the '90s, man. And there's a lot of people that'll be like, "Oh man, you got to find somebody who saw that show." I bet you could do a whole podcast about somebody that was at that old Foo Fighters show.
Yeah.
Um,
God, that must have been incredible to see
yeah,
that.
yeah. I wish
That
I was
must have
here
just
then, but I was just like, wow, it's nice that like a band like Foo Fighters cares about stuff like that. You know, I hope that more people out there look back and try to help if they can. Sarah Bareilles is like donating to Humboldt Area Foundation last year, which is involved in a lot of local grants that help people here. So, cheers to her. Cheers to anybody that like goes out of their way, whenever they have the resources to help where they came from.
and it's not even just about financial resources. I mean, one of the best things you can do is use your time. Like, if you don't have money but you want to help out, just volunteer, you know? I think that's a thing that gets missed because you hear about all these big profile donations or people giving out large lump sums of money because they have a bunch of money and they feel passionate and want to do that. But
Hmm.
like, I can't go donate, a bunch of money to something. But if you were passionate about it, you could just go volunteer.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah.
time is so much more valuable than money.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Shy, my girlfriend, she's a volunteer at Miranda's, or she just wrapped up volunteering for like 3 or 4 years. She has to stop now because we have like a lot of stuff going on in our life. It's crazy right now, but she volunteered, and I mean that was just so enriching for her. And I know that all the volunteers down there at Miranda's Rescue, they do amazing work for those animals. Did you happen to get a new animal over the last year?
Um, no,
No,
no, I didn't.
so many people did.
Oh yeah,
I just thought that so many people did it. I thought the chances of you having done it were pretty
no,
high,
I didn't.
because like I mean, and these dogs that we were all taking in that like we can spend more time with because we're not commuting as much or just working from home. They're like so well trained. Like my puppy Bly, she's 7 months old, and we've had her since she was like 2 weeks old, but she is so smart. I'm just thinking of all these like pandemic animals that are just like insanely trained right now
Yeah,
because
because
people can
people
spend all
they
the
had
time on
time.
it.
Yeah.
Like she'll like sit and stay and lay down and like wait for her treats, and then you can like rest a treat on her nose and tell her okay, and then she'll eat it like
What kind of
out
dog
of
is
it.
she?
She's like a big mix, and that's another cool thing that I love that people do is just rescue animals, not caring like
Oh
what.
yeah.
But I mean, she's a mutt. She's like mostly a shepherd, but she's solid like red. She's
Oh
like
wow.
she's like golden retriever red all throughout her whole body, but looks like a golden retriever, or it looks like a German shepherd.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
she's cool looking dog. Yeah, she's a lot
Damn.
of fun. But and I don't know, it's like creative projects and animals. I feel like that's been like some of the big upsides of the pandemic.
Yeah. I mean it, getting those animals out of those shelters is just that's a great thing. I mean, it's hard, especially animal shelters. Like that's just hard when they have to put them down, especially if they don't get adopted. Like that's not good.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah.
It's
It
really
really
hard.
is.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that do thankless work like that. That's kind of like that's not as glamorous and it doesn't get headlines, but
It's important.
yeah, cheers to anybody that's volunteering at local shelters, animal shelters, volunteering for Betty Chin, people like that. There's good people that have turned their lives around here, that you know were assisted by volunteers like that, and they just don't get the thanks that they deserve. Or there's like local cleanup groups that don't get enough thank yous. Teachers, in Humboldt County, like, can you believe what they went through this last year trying to like keep kids engaged? And probably it was probably really hard for them.
Oh, guaranteed.
You know,
I mean, I was in college through that and was doing online work and it's just not the
it's not the
same.
same.
And it's not nearly as good and you're not getting nearly as much information as you would if you were actually in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I worry about those kids,
Yeah.
and what's gonna and I'm sure your daughter probably went through that. Did she do online work?
She was a hybrid for
Okay.
a lot of the year. She's down in Fortuna at Redwood Prep, and they did a really good job. There was one class I believe that had to quarantine for a couple weeks, but other than that, um, they educated those kids with distancing and a little bit of in person and a little bit of at home work. And a lot of the parents out there, Shy, and then Audrey's mom, Alyssa, they just did such amazing work. So um, while I'm saying that, shout out to all the Humboldt County and all the people listening that have blended families that make it work for the kid. That's amazing to see too.
Oh yeah.
I see a lot of that here. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's the kids, there's the new animals, the creative projects. Like, did you see any other positives of the
From COVID?
pandemic? Yeah.
Um I think a big positive that I saw is that people are a little more willing to question things, I think. And not like in an extreme way where they think like the world's ending or,
Yeah.
you
No
know,
flat Earth
yeah,
stuff.
no
Yeah.
flat earth stuff, thankfully.
Yeah.
But I mean, be a little more skeptical about just information. Like, no, they're not taking what they hear, like we said, like on Facebook or CNN, as gospel to the extent that I felt like was happening beforehand. Like, people are a little bit more like, I don't really know what this means. Like, how do we, like, I got to figure out. They're just more willing to look deeper, I think. At least
Mm-hmm.
here locally, from the people that I've talked to on the podcast, they all seem really willing to challenge their ideas. And I don't know, maybe I didn't surround myself with those kinds of people beforehand, or I hadn't come into contact or had the opportunity to express those ideas with them. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important because it's been a hard year, and I think people are just just tired and exhausted, and to see that they're still willing to question and not take things at face value, I think that's important.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, that's a hard one, right? Because you
Yeah,
have the juxtaposition of people that like don't believe their own doctors about things,
yeah, which is not good.
and it's
But it's
like,
a trade. I had someone tell me that their doctor said that they shouldn't be taking a multivitamin, and I was like, oh, we gotta have a talk with your doctor because I know what they eat, and I was like,
yeah.
you definitely are not getting everything that you need. Like,
Yeah,
what are we
multi-source
doing?
too. I mean, if you, like you said, question authority to an extent, but like, don't think that everybody's out there trying to lie to you, especially if, they're coming from a place where they have nothing to gain from providing this information to you. I don't know. I didn't see the mask mandate as a control mechanism. You know,
Some people think that it was.
I know a lot of people do. I
Yeah,
know that then a lot of people don't, and a lot of and I'm just of the mindset where it was like, gosh, I didn't mind wearing it. It wasn't that hard, and I know that it's not a slippery slope. I know that the government isn't going to make me do something horrible, and I just have that trust because I've reported on the government and I've looked deeply into it and I've interviewed government officials and I work in government, and I've seen how that works and there's no and I've seen how it's failed in the past too. So I'm glad that people are questioning it and definitely question authority, but also understand that like there's things that maybe we've gone a little
there's a
overboard on.
line. That's
Yeah.
I maybe I'm backtracking a little bit then, but there is definitely a problem with people going too deep, which is we have to be careful because you can. I had a conversation on the last podcast that was kind of touching on this too. That it's like you can go down the rabbit hole a little bit too far, like.
Yeah.
And for me, that's like when you get into like this QAnon stuff, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
don't you think we should pump the brakes a little bit? Like, what are we?
When you start to believe a little thing, then you're going to start to believe everything, and you're going to start to question everything. So, yeah, I mean, with moderation comes, everything in moderation.
Yeah,
We need it. Not everything is fake news, but, not everything is real news. So let's
yeah,
make sure that we're multi-sourcing. Let's make sure that we're trusting reliable sources and, make sure that we're reading people like Isabella.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And listening to shows like yours, and
And yours.
yeah, and
Yeah.
just challenge your ideas, but make sure that you're grounded in something,
Mm-hmm.
not in a belief or a certain way of life, but be grounded in the pursuit of truth. Maybe I think would be a noble thing because like we said, you can find a video online that will make you believe anything. You could spend 30 minutes on YouTube and you're going to think the earth is flat. Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just that easy. These videos can be so convincing sometimes. And if you're not grounded
Yeah.
or don't do outside research,
That
you're,
pandemic thing, I was like, oh my gosh, that's like, oh wow, they did a really good production value on this thing.
what
But
is the pandemic?
oh, that was some video that was going around at the very start of the pandemic that was leading everybody on Facebook and their mom and cousin to say, oh, well, this is all planned for government control. And it's like, oh, well, you start seeing the number of people who died, and maybe you think that's not true. Yeah.
It's a crazy time.
Yeah.
There's just, there's so much information, and a lot of people, myself included, sometimes you just don't know how to wade through it all. And that's why you need to check sources and look at different opinions. And if you read something that confirms your idea, maybe read something that doesn't and see how it stacks up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just important to do that.
Triangulation in all facets of life, not just like, not just news items, but it's like you find something out in your own personal life. You want to make sure you talk to a couple different friends about it, and then somebody else that's maybe neutral, so you could get your own opinion about what to do. So
It's crazy.
yeah.
What do you think about the Pentagon releasing all these alien UFO videos?
Oh, hell yeah. I think Tom DeLonge is pretty happy from
Who's Tom DeLonge?
Blink 182.
Oh, is he big into it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. He'll talk to you for days about how aliens exist and how he works for an ultra secret organization that has already confirmed alien life forms
Oh shit.
and has all kinds of he's interesting. If you can listen to a Rogan interview, an old one with Tom DeLonge, you'll have a fun time.
Oh, I'm gonna have to find that.
But yeah, those they couldn't confirm. You saw that video. They couldn't confirm if it was a UFO, but they couldn't confirm that it was not a UFO.
Yeah, there's been a few of them. There was the Tic Tac one. There's been a few. There was the one where it was like hovering above the water and then went into the water. I mean, it's crazy. It is just a crazy time to be alive.
To think that aliens don't exist, I feel is like pretty naive. Because
space is so big.
Yeah, it's
the idea that we're the only things out there, and it's constantly expanding.
Mm-hmm.
So, out of all these billions of planets, this is the only one that has life.
I'm sure most of the aliens are just flown by and like taking a little peek and said, "Oh,
yeah, I'm not going down there.
Yeah.
That's a shit. These guys are gonna nuke each other. Like, I'm not going near that.
Yeah, come on, we're not gonna spend the time on giving these people our tech.
They'll blow each other up.
It's just what a waste of time.
Yeah, it's not a good investment. We're gonna find the next one.
But then again, I feel like I love all the space exploration that we're focused on.
What SpaceX is doing in the colonization of Mars. I think we are in for such an exciting next few years.
Mm-hmm.
If we can keep it together and pull society back into itself a little bit.
Yeah, start focusing on like, okay, so I mean, I don't know where you stand on global warming, but I mean, if we are nearing a really difficult time for our planet, hopefully we have somewhere to go and hopefully we have lessons to learn. And, if it is reversible, then maybe we can do that too. I don't see the point in like not trying if
we should definitely try. Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's take care of what we have, but let's also start focusing on, plan B. And hopefully when we reach plan B, can we take the lessons learned and be a little kinder to each other and our planet that we land on,
Yeah. Or not even just plan B. I mean, what if an asteroid was headed towards us?
Yeah.
Like that could definitely happen. The planet's been struck before. It could
I'm pretty sure
again.
Bruce Willis would just blow it up.
True, we might be safe on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis.
If he's around, if he's gone,
yeah,
we're definitely fucked.
Right.
But even overpopulation, I mean, we're going to have to go somewhere else because there's not going to be enough space eventually, however long that takes, or however, once we deplete resources, like, we have to focus on sustainability because we should want to stay here or at least have a presence here. But I think space is our future. I think exploration, like, that's what we are. Like, we are explorers, we're creatives, I think that's what we should pursue instead of war and instead of being, having our hands at each other's throats. I think we should turn our gaze outwards and come together to pursue whatever's out there. I mean, imagine what's out there. Like, I can't even wrap my head around it.
Yeah. I wish that we could live infinitely to find out.
Right? Robots.
Yeah. We'll just upload our consciousness into some AI.
I could get behind that.
Yeah. All right.
Bring it on.
I'm in.
I want a few people to test it first, though. I don't want to be the first one.
Yeah. Why not? And make sure we do that in a hypersensitive location that we can lock down pretty good.
In case it goes sideways.
I've seen enough movies to know that it's not going to work
Ex
out.
Machina.
Oh my gosh.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Tricky.
Yeah, what an interesting one about the Turing test, and that's just fascinating what we could do, and what's infinitely and exponentially possible.
Yeah, if it keeps going at this rate, I mean, that's not outside the realm of possibility. It's really not.
Yeah. And will the robots take kindly to humans sharing the world with them?
That is the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think we took a big Joe Rogan turn right there,
We
but
did.
yeah.
We did. Now, if we started talking about like elk meat and
Hmm.
DMT, I think we'd be right on track.
There we go. Let's go hunting with Greg Abbott.
Yep.
Yep.
Bow hunting.
There we go.
Come on.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
want to. We got to get serious about it.
There we go.
All right. Well, man, we just did 2 hours.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my
I know.
goodness.
Time flies in
Good
here, right?
times, dude.
Yeah.
Awesome. How fun.
Do you have anything you want to plug again, or
Yeah,
shout out the podcast?
check out this podcast. It's Growing Pains. Nicholas is a fantastic host.
Thank
Check him
you.
out. So tune in for the next one.
Do you want to plug yours?
Yeah, listen to Humboldt Last Week. Check it out, HumboldtLastWeek.com
And the radio?
and Humboldt Last Week Radio. And check out Humboldt Fresh Finds on 99.1 Kiss FM Saturday nights, 7 to 8 p.m.
Tomorrow night. I'm definitely going to check that out.
And shout out to Bongo Boy Studio and Bellstar Clothing and the North Coast Co-op and the Gondry and North Coast Journal. I think I got most of my sponsors there. Photography by Shy, Christiana Graham Massage Therapy. If I could plug them.
Yeah.
This is
You
really
can plug
commercial
whoever
right
you
now.
want.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. I had a great time talking with you. That was a lot of fun.
Same here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.